Armin, you're muted. Oh no, Armin, you're still muted.
Oh, we be live. Hello, Durud and Shalom.
Hello, guys. We are joined by a guest today from FDD. Mr. Edmund Fitton-Brown was the British ambassador to Yemen for 2015 to 2017, along with working in the global counterterrorism unit within the United Nations, focusing on ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, and others. He is an expert on the Middle Eastern affairs, and we are going to pick his brain today regarding what's currently going on. We have a lot of updated information, so we will be going along with the usual program, and we'll be getting Edmund's thoughts as we move forward. And above all, of course, Edmund is a very kind man. He agreed to join us today for our program here, and we are, or at least I am, very excited. And so let's get started here. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, the United States announced the beginning of economic operations aimed at isolating Iran. The goal is to target the partners of the Islamic Republic, namely China, and we have their response for you today. But rather than a blanket ban or a cutoff date for everyone, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that their administration will actually issue specific and case-by-case timelines to individual nations. We have other FDD expert videos like Miyad Maliki that we're going to show you guys as well, but let's begin with something that's a bit more encouraging, and we'll begin this video here.
Oh.
There it is. All right, let's take a listen.
How long? How long until this economic reality sets in Iran?
Well, the regime has for years been under severe sanctions. You're right that it's difficult to come up with a time frame, but here's what I can tell you. Iran's economy is not really run by the government as much as it's run by the oligarchs, by these businessmen who are connected to the regime and runs the economy. At some point, they're going to realize that be aligned with this regime is more of a liability than financial incentive. They're going to start defect. I think that defection is going to start soon. If this economic pressure campaign remain in place the way it is and we get more partners to join us, I think they're at the point that they're going to have to start either thinking about a deal or things just going to break apart in Iran very soon.
Okay, so oligarchs start defecting.
And so that's something that we've been saying for a while, is that the Islamic Republic cannot afford to sit back for any longer, as the current situation is losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. It's going to force it to either, as we've been saying, strike the Persian Gulf Arab countries and their infrastructure, their oil, water desalinization, etc., and all the ships, or it's going to come to the negotiating table, which is day by day becoming more difficult for it as it's losing more. The U.S. demands more. What do you think when people say that the Americans and the IRGC want to come to a deal? How likely is that in your opinion?
I mean, I think both sides, in theory, want to come to a deal, but the two positions are just so far apart. I mean, they have been ever since before the war broke out at the end of February. And, if you think about the files that are in dispute between the two countries, you've got the nuclear file, the missiles file, you've got the proxies file, you've got the human rights file, and then, since the war started, you've now got the Strait of Hormuz. So 5 files. And when we had the MOU, which of course was, sort of an experiment over 60 days, didn't work, didn't really even start to work, and it's now formally expired. The MOU really showed how far apart the two countries are on all of those files, because there was nothing in there about the proxies, nothing about the ballistic missiles, absolutely nothing about the human rights of the Iranian people. So the US was, in many ways, was kind of bending over backwards to provide Iran with an off-ramp. And I still find it amazing that the Iranians didn't take that off-ramp, because it was, the MOU was very much, could have provided them with a an off-ramp that was, significantly in there to their, on their side of the bargain of the balance. They could have gone away and said, well, we came out of this pretty well, and the US wanted all of these things, but really didn't get very much. But because of this sort of arrogance that the regime has, we must have won, so let's ask for absolutely everything. Let's demand everything. Let's demand compensation. Let's provide nothing on the nuclear file. Let's provide completely unsatisfactory cooperation on the Strait of Hormuz. And so in a sense, they created they guaranteed that the MOU would fail and that the US would ultimately have to sort of regard it as a failed experiment. So nothing has changed from that. We're still light years apart. And so the question then is, does the US have a good reason to back down? It did when it was running out of munitions and was having to think about whether the engagement in the Gulf was possibly undermining its capability in other theaters like the Far East. But now it's hit upon a strategy, both the naval blockade and this Operation Economic Outcast, the economic D-Day, which if they sustain them and combine them and sustain them, these can be highly effective because the regime needs money. The IRGC can't pay people if it doesn't have money. And so for all that they talk about ideology, they do care about money. And you mentioned the oligarchs. I mean, that was something that came up in the reel that you ran earlier. The fact is that this is a gigantic economic concern as well. The IRGC and the Basij, they're an economic entity, a sort of a state monopoly in large areas of the economy, and so they can't actually just survive with no money. And right now, the naval blockade has reduced Iran's oil exports below 10% of what they were, effectively to zero. If this economic D-Day is sustained, and it looks like it might be, because if you look at the way that Bessent has announced it, I would say this has a level of seriousness that we haven't seen before. When Secretary of Defense Hegseth used to be interviewed on the progress of the military campaign, it felt a little bit improvised, a little bit amateurish. This feels more serious from Secretary of the Treasury Bessent. And of course, he's got the Treasury at his disposal. And I'm glad you've spoken to Miad Maliki, my colleague, because of course he is ex-Treasury. He actually knows this stuff better than I do. But the fact is that US Treasury sanctions are the most powerful sanctions that any country or indeed any international entity in the world can levy. They already brought Iran to its knees 20 years ago, or just over 20 years ago, which is one of the reasons why Iran suddenly had to negotiate, because it realized that it was under so much pressure. Now, if the Treasury goes after these sanctions properly, and of course that means you're not just imposing sanctions, but you are then penalizing every breach that you can identify. You bring all of your resources to bear, your intelligence resources, your Treasury resources, your State Department resources. All of these resources are brought to bear, and you say, okay, the Chinese are doing this, that, and the other. All the Chinese entities that are involved in this, they're all sanctioned now. The Pakistanis are doing this, they're all sanctioned. The Turks are doing this, they're all sanctioned. Iraq, India potentially. And you can see that this has now got the Iranian regime really worried, because the reactions that we're seeing for the first time look to me like something close to panic about the fact that inflation is now run to the point where the rial is more than 2 million to the dollar. We've also got people, unable to fill their cars with gas at filling stations in Iran. And you've also got some dissident voices coming out in Iran saying this economic situation is unsustainable. The other people who are reacting, interestingly, are the Chinese. They don't like this either. They can see that this is actually going to hit them for the first time. Whereas previously, I think, there was always a tendency to say, oh, well, the Chinese do this stuff and they get some cheap oil from it. And, it's not worth having a fight with them about it. For the first time, the Chinese think that the US are ready for a fight with them about this specifically. So this isn't easy. it's not going to be something that the US can do without some pain itself. It will have to coerce partners. It'll have to coerce Turkey, for example, and Turkey has been has been treated as a preferential partner by this administration for a long time. This administration has been perhaps rather soft on Pakistan. So you can see that this is going to be tricky. But the US has got some powerful help already, because the UAE has also announced that it's cutting off all trade with Iran and it's cutting off all financial dealings with Iran. So the UAE has got on the front foot and actually joined this blockade even before it was fully implemented. And so it looks to me as if this is serious. It looks to me as if the US thinks that because you're not seeing significant numbers of military casualties, that the economic pain is something that you can sell if you have a strategy. And I think above all, the question is now, can the US actually show some consistency of implementation? Because the real weakness that we saw between April and earlier this month was that the US was vacillating. Nobody knew what the US policy was, and the policy seemed to change. And then people were, of course, entirely mystified by the MOU. Now you have a coordinated policy, which looks like it's going to be seriously implemented. And what the US has got to do is to sell to the US electorate, to the US public, that this is not going to fix the situation quickly. This is not a matter of weeks. This is a matter of months minimum. It could take us into 2027.
Absolutely. You touched on so many good points there. Armin, I think you wanted to say something first.
If it's okay, I do want to play devil's advocate to see how Edmund responds to it, right? Just because I'm hearing the naysayers and people who are skeptical about this, and just want to see what the best response to all of that is. So none of this will work until we fix the China problem, right? Because China is the only country that has the ability to provide the Islamic Republic with the ability to go around this. They have an alternative to SWIFT, and they also have experience in trading off of the dollar system. All the other partners, trade partners of the Islamic Republic are not as capable as China to provide the Islamic Republic with some breathing room. So the pressure should be on China. And people are not, we don't know how serious the United States is about pushing back against China yet. All right, we just have an announcement, and we don't know how serious this is going to be, given that we know China has ability to respond because of their control over global supply chains, including rare earth minerals. So they have the ability to push back, right? And what Scott Bessent did was just an announcement. The sanctions itself are not there. It's just an announcement about things that will come later in the future, right? And a lot of people are concerned that, even all of this is not even about making the regime collapse. It's about getting another deal. And as soon as the Islamic Republic comes back to the negotiating table and puts a deal on the table that President Trump would like, then all of a sudden all of this would be lifted. And the Islamic Republic would get a lot of much needed breathing room. And the most important part is that some people are saying none of this is enough. It took, we had the most aggressive sanctions against Saddam. And from the start of those sanctions in the 1990, I think it was, until the fall of Saddam, which it was weak enough to be able to topple him with in 2 weeks after of military operation, it took 12 years. So Saddam, for example, managed to survive extreme economic sanctions for 12 years. So how is this different? And a lot of people are saying the economic sanctions, as much as it's hurting the Islamic Republic, it is not enough to topple the Islamic Republic. And I want to add to that is that I think that the two most important things are missing. And one is allowing Israel to go and finish the job with other regime officials. Stop tying their hands, give them the green light, don't put anybody on a no-kill list like before, and just give them unleash them on the Islamic Republic. So on top of this economic pressure, don't stand in their way, but most importantly than anything, arm the Iranian people. And I feel like just with economic pressure, we are hurting the Islamic Republic and we are weakening them, but this is going to take so long, and it's going to be and the Iranian people are going to be suffering with it as well, a lot. So it is good, but it's not enough. we have to add arming the Iranian people and also standing out of Israel's way for this to happen a lot faster.
So I think those are all fair challenges, and there's a lot in what you say. I suppose taking them one by one, the first thing I would say is, my sense is that if this is sustained, if it's sustained, and if it is also backed by other work that we are not necessarily privy to, because there's going to be a lot of classified activity that is going on in which the Israelis are still very much involved. I mean, let's not forget that US-Israeli intelligence cooperation doesn't stop just because Israel isn't actively bombing or actively taking out Iranian leaders at the moment. So, I think we have to assume that there is a lot going on in the background that simply can't be announced, will not be announced initially. But I think you make some very fair points. First of all, will the US actually have the patience and the determination to sustain this policy? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm saying that the policy is a good one, but I'm not saying that they will necessarily sustain it, and I'm not saying that it's absolutely sufficient in itself either. But it is a good policy because for the first time you have something that looks like comprehensive maximum pressure and an intent to enforce it. So that's a big deal. But President Trump is mercurial, and he's the kind of guy who, he'll literally go on television twice in the same week, and one time say that he's going to wipe out the Iranian civilization, and then another time say everything's great and we're about to have a deal, and they're tough guys but they can take a punch, and it's really, really difficult. And by the way, I mentioned this because it's not just a matter of communications and morale. This does have some legal effects as well, because the US needs partners on this. And it's hard for partners to engage with the US if it doesn't maintain a consistent messaging. So ideally, President Trump would take a little bit of a backseat on the messaging. I prefer to see somebody like Scott Bessent messaging, or Marco Rubio, people like that, because they're more likely to be consistent and they're more likely to set out options which can bring in partners. Because we've got this question of naval enforcement, which has always been a big part of this, and of course it still is. And the naval blockade really matters. And by the way, the naval blockade is not something that China can do anything about. China can't. China has these teapot refineries, but they're not going to be able to get the Iranian oil if the US sustains the naval blockade, because the Iran does not have good overland options to replace the naval routes. So that's pretty important stuff. And what the US needs to be doing, in addition to this policy, is building the coalition around it. It needs a more joined up policy that is not only factoring in Iran, but is also factoring in Iranian proxies like the Houthis, because it's silly to have the Saudis with a 14-member coalition to oppose Houthi, let's say terrorism in the Red Sea. The US should be in that coalition and should be insisting that that coalition applies not just to the Red Sea, but to the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf, and also to any other waterway where pirates or pirate nations are challenging the law of the sea and challenging the freedom of navigation. So that's an important component that is still missing. It hasn't been worked up. I'd like to think that there's diplomacy that's underway, that we will ultimately see the US take over that Saudi coalition against the Houthis and turn it into something more strategic. And that's where you might get the Europeans coming on board as well, because the Europeans came on board with the anti-Houthi operations in the Red Sea over the last few years. They've struggled with this Iranian conflict because they didn't like the way the Americans went into it, and they didn't like the way that Trump communicated it. But if you can bring this back to the law of the sea, then it's possible, I think, to build a coalition and to include the Europeans in it. And by the way, we need the Emiratis in it as well, because the Saudis and the Emiratis are still not playing nice with each other, and that makes no sense. They need to be told that whatever quarrels they have with each other, they are insignificant compared to the threats that we're dealing with, and primarily with Iran. Now, you make a really good point about the Chinese having the economic heft and also the, if you like, the systems in place to offer an alternative to the dollar and to the banking system. The important point here is the US has overused sanctions in recent years. It's been very free with imposing sanctions and then has not been sufficiently determined in the way that it follows up on them. So an awful lot of sanctions regimes that are in place, state regimes, treasury regimes that have been socialized through the United Nations or are reflected in other jurisdictions in some cases. But what the US is risking by doing that, of course, is that you potentially drive all of your opponents into an alternative global economy, a sort of a second global economy, secondary to the dollar, but independent of the dollar, so that ultimately a country can survive because it can effectively go into the embrace of China and the BRICS, and can then continue to function without the dollar. Now, that's a big thing for a country to do. It's a particularly big thing for a large economy that's very closely tied into the West, like Turkey, for example. Very, very hard for them to do. And of course, not everybody wants to put themselves at the mercy of China. You know, India, for example, is not a particularly good friend of China on a whole number of issues. And so, India is going to think about this and say, well, maybe this would be a good thing if we actually help out a bit here, because the Indians have been quite robust against the Iranians over Iranian interference with shipping in the high seas. So I think, again, there's more coalition building to be done here. But that, just to answer your point about the extent to which the US is willing to tangle with China on this, that in a way is the key question. At the moment, they're saying that they are, and the Chinese are reacting as if they believe that the US is willing to do that. And they don't like it. They're worried about it because, China doesn't want to see, it doesn't want to see all the gloves come off, because if they do, the Chinese economy, of course, then suffers very badly, as well as other global economies suffering. But I think if the US is ever going to do this, it needs to be in pursuit of a really big objective. And that really big objective is to end the threat to international civilization that the Islamic Republic poses. That is where I think we have been missing a clearly communicated ideology behind the policy on the US side here. Rather than just talking about they mustn't have nuclear weapons, which obviously matters, it does matter. You're quite right. They at various points, they had ditched the idea of regime change. They had ditched the idea of doing anything for the Iranian people. And in my view, that was a mistake. And I think it was also something of a betrayal, because there was an element of encouraging the Iranian people to believe that that was what the US was coming to do. And so to give up on that at the time of the MOU was deeply disappointing. But now what we're seeing from Bessent and from some others is talk of this pressure leading to regime change. Now, we're missing instrumentality here, and I think you make that point, absolutely. What are we doing about arming the people? What are we doing about providing the people with reliable internet access and reliable communications for the next time that you have an internet blackout in Iran? So there, we don't know to what extent the US and Israel are active behind the scenes. We're not absolutely sure about it, but I agree that that does need to be part of the policy, because if you think that you're going to be able to push the Islamic Republic back to the precipice that it was facing in January, and I think it will sooner or later. I mean, I don't know whether it'll happen within months or whether it won't happen until next year or the year after. And there's a big difference there, because an awful lot of people suffer and die in that period, depending on how long that period is. But if you assume that that's where eventually it's going to go, and I think we all know it is going to go there eventually, because nothing that the Islamic Republic has done has rescued its reputation in the eyes of its people. So those people are still fed up. They're very afraid, but they're also very, very angry. And, with the right encouragement, with the right incentives, with the right confidence that they might succeed, they could take back the streets. And so that's where there needs to be a covert plank to this, a special forces plank to it, an intelligence plank to it, that is going to kick in, so that the next time you have a situation like the one in January, instead of Trump just saying, take back the streets, we're coming to your help, but they weren't ready. The US wasn't ready. It didn't actually have a policy on the ground. Israel was probably closer to having one, but Israel didn't have enough either. Next time, clearly, at that point, the Islamic Republic will have to be pushed. And I think this then finally brings us back to the point, which is, there has been so much talk and, a lot of wrong-headed talk in Europe about this isn't our war, but it's everybody's war. Because this ultimately is essentially this is a conflict over the future of Western civilization, and also whether the Great Persian civilization retakes its place as part of the community of nations and a major contributor to the United Nations, to the global economy, to everything else, and what some people in Europe, I think, have just willfully been missing is that the Islamic Republic declared war on the West nearly 50 years ago. And that state of undeclared war, or semi-declared war, has never abated throughout that period. And, we should have seen it clearly enough when the US diplomatic hostages were taken right at the beginning. We should have seen it clearly enough when Salman Rushdie's life was threatened 10 years later. We should have seen it clearly enough when the Iranians were instructing and training and arming Lebanese Hezbollah to murder large numbers of Americans and Europeans and take hostages. We should have seen it coming when we had the attacks going on in Saudi Arabia, in Argentina, and elsewhere. And then the attrition of American troops in Iraq at a time when Iraq was engaged, when the US was engaged in a project in Iraq that was friendly to Iran. It was a project that was going to free Iran from the threat of Saddam Hussein, because that was a threat. Saddam Hussein was a brutal threat to not just to the Iranian regime, but to the Iranian people as well. He used chemical weapons in that war. So at that point, nobody should have been in any doubt that we were in a state of semi-declared war with Iran. And therefore, this only ends when the Islamic Republic ends.
Perfectly said.
Thank you so much for touching on all those great points. The UAE, let's go back to that for just a second. 1 out of every $3 of imports that goes into Iran comes from the UAE. Now, on its own, the fact that they cut their ties 24 hours before the announcement that Scott Bessent made was something quite extraordinary, even unprecedented. However, on its own, we believe that if it's just the UAE, the Islamic Republic will find a way around it eventually. But if it's with the addition of China, as you believe as well, that's too big of a blow for the IRGC to be able to get around. Another thing I was thinking about last night, wanted to see what your guys' thoughts are. The economy of the IRGC itself largely runs on rent. They own everything. And if the regular people can't make rent, which is impossible at this point, many shops are closing. People have to put hours of their day to simply wait for gas, food, etc., electricity outages. Even if you do buy that food, put it in the fridge, electricity goes out. The normal lives of the people have deteriorated to such a point where making this high amount of rent, because the dollar just hit over 230 toman, or 2,050,000 about, the IRGC aren't going to be making money here. Armin, have you thought about that before?
No.
That's something I listened to, and was I listened to this Iranian economist. It was all in Farsi, and he brought up that point. If regular people can't make rent, and if the IRGC's strategy this entire time was to leech off the people, what's going to happen to them now?
I mean, I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And so that's getting expedited by the fact that the gas situation is about 20 million liters short. Guys, that's about 4 million gallons short. And on top of that, the IRGC will come out and they'll say on their state media, yeah, guys, someone's stealing gas, someone's siphoning off from the main pipelines of gasoline. Well, who else other than you, IRGC, have the capability of doing that? They take that gas, they sell it in Pakistan or Iraq for higher prices, and they deprive themselves of time at which they're running out of. And so more and more officials of the Islamic Republic are saying, yeah, probably much September, October, we're looking at a civil uprising, which has put this post out by Prince Reza Pahlavi about the Immortal Guard. The timing of this post is something that I want to bring to attention. Translate this. So, in terms of the people coming out.
Here, let me think. I think
Okay,
this would be
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this entire post is just saying about protect each other. You're not alone. The way that the Immortal Guard works is that it's a nuclei of about 5 people. The more covert you can stay, the more long your group will. So right here, the more hidden your group remains, the longer its endurance will be. These type of posts coming out at the moment now and being pushed by his entire team is suggesting a lot of things to Iranians. This came out about 7 hours ago. When you hear things like this, you feel like you can't help but feel that things are going back towards a civil uprising. And Armin, could you summarize for us the things that we've talked about for about 2 to 3 weeks here, the new appointments of the Islamic Republic, particularly among the Basij, or the suppressive forces, the leaked audio messages, even the memos that we've had from within the administration of the regime that say, we are scared, there will be an uprising in about a month or two at the current rates. Now, the current rates are already bad. They're going to get worse. And could you summarize that for us about the people coming out again and why they would do that?
Yeah, and it would. That's a good question, and I really would want to see what Edmund thinks about all of this, because what Ali is referring to is a lot of data that we're getting from the regime itself, that more publicly than ever before, they're signaling that they're afraid of an uprising that is coming anytime soon. And it's interesting because usually this type of information used to get leaked outside and we would know that they're afraid. But their level of fear is getting so high that they are publicly announcing it, because they consider it to be so imminent that they have to warn their own followers, their own base of support, because they themselves think like their forces are not good enough to push the Iranian back. So they're basically relying on their own minority civilian-based support to push back against an upcoming uprising. And because they're so desperate, unlike before, they're not hiding their fear anymore. They're openly expressing it. But I mean, obviously, they don't call it the uprising of the Iranian people. They say like Zionist spies and riots of the people who are with the enemy and traitors like that. That's how they express it.
Criminals,
but we
no
are
doubt.
seeing a level. Yes, exactly. But we're seeing a level of fear that we've never seen before, and it's interesting because they're now fear not just an uprising by the secular Iranian people, but they're also, as we predicted, are afraid of their own base of support uprising against them as well because of these current conditions.
Yeah, I think that's all absolutely right. I've been drafting an op-ed recently about the fact that you've seen these televised civil defense preparations by the regime, and that is not relevant to the war with the US or any possible resumption of hostilities with Israel. Getting people to fire rifles that's not going to do anything against an air campaign or a drone campaign or anything of that kind that is coming with standoff from the US or from Israel. It's against the people. That's what it's about. It's because the regime is afraid that they know that in the end that's the real threat. They can survive almost any level of attrition from the US and Israel if it's purely aimed against, no matter what damage it does to infrastructure, to the economy and things of that kind. What they can't withstand, of course, is another popular uprising, particularly if that has properly targeted international support. So I think there's no doubt that that is the case. The one thing I find a little bit difficult in all of this, and it's worth saying this just because one doesn't want to sound as if we're instrumentalizing human suffering here. This is an awful situation for the people on the inside. If you're somebody who is sort of contemplating taking these risks and looking at the people who've been either shot down or executed afterwards, these are brutal times, and the courage of anyone who's willing to put their head above the parapet right now is really humbling, I think, for all of us on the outside. And the same goes with this talk of the economy. Yes, it's true that if people can't make their rent, that can starve the IRGC of their finances, and then they can't pay their people, and their economic interests are unable to survive. So yes, I think this can be highly effective. But of course, we must also recognize that the process by which you get to that sort of choking of the monster that is the IRGC's economic monopoly across Iran is via this awful hardship from people who can't cool their homes in summer, can't heat them in the winter, can't fill their cars with gas. Can't afford their rent, and then that whatever hardship that leads to in terms of debt and possible immediate consequences in terms of legal or personal jeopardy. So it's an awful situation, and nobody on the outside is saying that the Iranian population is just a tool whose hardship will eventually bring down the regime. But the reality is that the IRGC, I think, cannot survive if beyond a certain point, the population just universally concludes that it's not delivering anything worth delivering. And as you say, this can come from both sides to some degree. I mean, I think the main uprising that we may see will be, along the lines of the one in late December and the first half of January. I think it will organize around the Lion and the Sun flag. I think Reza Pahlavi is a key pivotal figure in all of this. I do think the Americans need to sort out their attitude to that, because I think one of the great weaknesses of the US approach earlier this year was that they couldn't figure out how much confidence they had in Reza Pahlavi. The reality is he's the only game in town. There isn't another banner around which the Iranian people were organizing. They were organizing around the Lion and the Sun, and they were organizing around the idea of a constitutional monarchy that would put an end to this Islamic Republic nightmare. So I think that the Americans need to do better in that respect.
Why haven't they? Why haven't they yet? Why hasn't the Trump administration yet officially recognized Prince Reza Pahlavi as a representative of the Iranian people? A lot of people make excuses and say that if he does that, it will look like the leader of the Iranian people has been handpicked by Washington, D.C. But I don't buy that, because the people who would say that are already saying that. And at the end of the day, we know that the Iranian people, it's pretty clear, the Iranian people were writing the name of their Shah with their own blood while they were being gunned down in the streets. So they couldn't have made it any more clear that this is Prince Reza Pahlavi is the choice of the Iranian people. So if anybody want to say that, let them say that. If Washington, D.C., if the Trump administration recognizes Prince Reza Pahlavi right now, yes, sure, some people are going to say that means that he's been handpicked by the Americans, but we know that it's a recognition of the choice of the Iranian people and nothing else. The Iranian people have already made their choice. So what is the reason? What is the excuse for after trying everything else, after trying to arm the Kurdish separatist groups, and failing at it? Isn't it now obvious that there's only one choice? So what is the delay? I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and by the way, I think you're absolutely right that there's no point in sort of restraint in this matter, because the allegation that he's some kind of tool of the West, that's there anyway. The allegation that the US is interfering in Iran's domestic affairs, that's there anyway. You never get rid of that allegation. That's why the Israelis have been fairly open about their support for regime change and their support for the Iranian people to throw off the Islamic Republic, because the Israelis know that everyone's going to accuse, everyone will say, oh, it's Mossad. Mossad have done this. So they're saying, well, if everyone assumes that anyway, then what have we got to lose? Well, Netanyahu, and by the way, I don't want to sort of sound like an enthusiast for Netanyahu. I'm not a particular fan of the guy, but I think he was right to speak directly to the Iranian people and say, you are not our enemies. It's the regime is your enemy, and it's our enemy as well, and we'll help in any way we can. I think that's the right way to go about it, and I think the Americans should have done more of that as well. So I think you're absolutely right. What's the inhibition? I think there are a couple of things in play. One is the US finds it hard to pick a winner in these things, and that's partly because of institutional timidity, whether it's State Department, whether it's CIA or others. There'll be a lot of people who are saying to the top policymakers, whether it's Trump himself, or whether it's Rubio or Kushner or whoever, they'll be saying, we're not sure about this guy. Maybe if we go with the monarchists, that's going to alienate some people who would otherwise, potentially be part of a broader coalition. So I think that kind of timidity, I think it's misplaced, but I think that may be there. The US has got also a weird inhibition about royal families. They just don't like them. They can occasionally be sort of entertained and fascinated by the British royal family, but they still go back to the sort of wicked King George and America's liberation from the tyranny of the monarchy. And oddly enough, that's quite deep in the American psyche. So for them to come out in favor of a crown prince in exile is difficult. They find it hard to get their heads around that. But to my mind, I think you're absolutely right. Pahlavi is the only candidate. Plus, he has handled this so well because he has done all of the things that are needed in terms of putting in place potentially constitutional mechanisms for what comes next, consultative mechanisms for what comes next. And he has made it absolutely clear he has no interest in becoming an autocrat, and that he wants to serve the country, not the country to serve him. And that if that means him taking on some kind of figurehead unifying role, then he's willing to serve in that position. Now, given that he's said that, I think the Americans should have backed him. And the other thing to think of it is that you have two standards here. One is Pahlavi as a royal figure. The other is the Lion and the Sun flag. And those two standards are in lockstep with each other. They are together with each other. And whatever your reservations about any royal system, you may think it's a little bit old-fashioned, irrational, whatever. If that also commands the pre-Islamic Republic flag, if that is what people are rallying around, it's Reza Pahlavi is our Shah, and this is our flag, well, then the Americans should have at least gone all in on the flag and accepted Reza Pahlavi as the figurehead of that flag.
Perfectly said. Thank you so much for saying that. Sometimes it might be a bit of an echo chamber when Armin and I repeat that over and over. So it's nice hearing that as well. I kind of got lost there. I was enjoying that so much.
Yep.
I wanted to quickly touch upon what we can watch for the next coming days. If we look at the Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz, and if we see that as the new important variable here, if we see that the shipping crisis becomes worse and the US backs that even more, no ships can get through, no Iranian oil can do ship-to-ship transfers. Today, another 15 oil tankers are conducting ship-to-ship, but actually none of them are Iranian crude oil. That is a good sign that things are moving and escalating towards Operation Economic Outcast, I believe it will be. The deal is also, Phil, I believe Field Marshal Asim Munir traveled to Tehran and gave the American proposal, which was promptly denied. Although they do like to come out and say, we had great talks, everything's going great, no reason to worry here. The rial as well just hit about 2,000 or 200,000, and sorry, we're talking about this in toman. It would be like 2,050,000. That's actually a 50,000 jump in the past, I think, 12 hours. And so that might add another zero on top of the 2 million there, become 200 million eventually. The more that goes on, and then the third thing is the gasoline. The prices are already sky high. The economy is used to running on about 11 cents a gallon. Now it's going up to 40, 50 cents, destroys the entire economy off. But as long as the gas lines are this long, as long as there's no gas found, today in Tehran, about another 6 or 7 gas stations completely ran out of gas. And that in itself is only going to get worse, but it will get better before. As we head into the fall months, the need for energy will come down a little bit. The electricity shortages might get a little bit less. But when we hit winter, everything might fall apart, and sooner than anyone might think. And I think the Islamic Republic will try to act before that winter time if they're taking a look at the numbers. Final thing here, China's foreign ministry spokesperson came out yesterday and said, China's cooperation with Iran falls within the framework of international law and should not be disrupted. Here's what I think about that. They are willing to see how much hurt they're willing to accept, how much pain are we willing to tolerate before we give up on the Islamic Republic. And I think they're going to fight every step of the way there. Is the U.S. going to match them step for step on how much they're willing to get hurt? It's going to be that question that comes up in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Armin, you want to say something?
No, I want to just ask you, Edmund, what do you think about all of that? Because I want to hear your feedback on that. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's good. It's good and accurate analysis. I think that's what and I think the trajectory of the demand for energy is right. It'll go down and come up again in the winter. It's worth remembering, isn't it, that the water issue in Tehran is, of course, completely unresolved, and that's potentially catastrophic. I mean, do you remember that Pezeshkian was talking before the conflict about possibly having to move the capital and possibly having to evacuate Tehran, a city of 10 million people? So, I mean, we are talking about a country that is catastrophically dysfunctional. It already was before the war. It's even more so now. And that's going to make people just angrier and angrier. There is, I think, a sweet spot in the climate, which, although it also means a reduction in energy demand, it also, of course, makes it slightly more likely people come out on the streets, because coming out on the streets is that little bit more manageable in the autumn season than it is in the middle of the summer. So that maybe there's a small element of encouragement there. But you were saying what comes next, and I think that there's a number of things that need to come next. The first of all is that the Americans need to hold their resolve on this. They also need to communicate to their own people and to say, this is not going to be resolved in a matter of weeks. This is going to be a matter of months, and it could continue into 2027. So that they must communicate that to the American people, because otherwise it's just they're constantly bleeding in the polls in America as we approach the midterms, and they just need to do a much better job of communicating a steady strategy on Iran, rather than the kind of inconsistency that we've seen previously. So that's a big deal. Making the point that the economic stranglehold with the naval blockade is a coordinated policy, and that these two things are mutually supporting, and pointing to the evidence that it is hurting the regime, that the regime is panicking, that you've got some people even speaking out in the Iranian leadership and saying, we've got a real problem here. And also saying that, that this also has to affect China, because China doesn't get to just sit on the sidelines and, benefit from whatever sort of falls off the table because of US sanctions. So the US has to maintain that. I think that's really important. But then we get to this issue of the international coalition that the US needs, and that is the big question for me, is whether the US is capable of building that coalition. I think there's goodwill available for them to use. I think it needs to be organized around the law of the sea. Because, as you mentioned earlier kindly, that when I talked about this before, that the Islamic Republic, every time that it challenges a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, it commits an act of war against the international community. We need to be much clearer about communicating that. The US needs to be clear about communicating that, and needs to get allies who are willing to do it as well. And, Saudi Arabia is going to be pivotal in this for a number of reasons. the way that the Iranians operate, they're also operating on 3 other fronts through the axis of resistance. They're operating on the Yemeni front and the Red Sea front through the Houthis, and the Houthis have effectively been tasked with testing Saudi as a weak link in the US sort of alliance system in the region. They're also operating through Lebanese Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Americans have not been very good on this up to now. They have not really backed Israel in Lebanon. They need to do so. They need to say the Israelis are an asset in this. The Israelis have actually helped to bring the Islamic Republic to its knees, and they've also brought Hezbollah to its knees, and they should be empowered to continue to do so. And it's not as if the Lebanese government disagrees. The Lebanese government actually agrees on this. It just doesn't want to take the risk itself. And so there's a need for the Americans to hold their nerves over this and to say to the Lebanese government, look, until such time as you can assert yourselves against Hezbollah, you're going to have to allow the Israelis to do it for you. And yes, we can have pilot zones where you take back control in parts of southern Lebanon, but then when you do control those zones, you have to make sure that they remain Hezbollah free. And then, of course, it's happening in Iraq as well. And there is a fight for the soul of Iraq, isn't there? We've got Zaidi having gone to DC. You know, he got his photo opportunity. He got the sort of statement of confidence in, you know, Trump with his usual sort of weird thing about, you know, he's such a handsome fellow. You know, he's nearly as good looking as Jolani in Syria. And so, you know, so he got his photo opportunity and he got the statement of confidence that, yes, you know, you're going to go and disarm these Iranian proxies. But then straight away, you get an Iraqi-Iranian meeting. You know, Galabaf goes off to Iraq, and you have all this talk about the sort of unbreakable relationship between Tehran and Baghdad. And so this is going to come to a crisis point at some stage. And there is a need for the Americans to, you know, to both to back anti-Iranian forces in Iraq, but also to hold Iraq's feet to the fire. And to say to the Iraqis, you know, there is no way out here with you siding with Iran. You know, you've got to pick a side this time because we will sanction you nationally and into entities and individuals if you are breaking this economic blockade of Iran. So I think that this is the real test for the US. Does it have the patience and the bandwidth and the diplomatic skill to persuade its allies that this time it is serious and that there really is no way out of this conflict other than Iran winning and effectively being able to blackmail the whole of Middle East region for the foreseeable future, or America prevailing and the Islamic Republic being driven ultimately to extinction and to be replaced by a proper Iranian political successor regime. So that's the real test. Can the Americans, you know, it's a sort of walk and chew gum question, isn't it? They can do the military stuff. We know that. They're militarily brilliant. They may be short of munitions, but they're very good at what they do. We know that they can do the economic side because Treasury is hugely effective and understands how to run this campaign if the political will is there to do it. But whether this administration is capable of figuring out the cross-cutting diplomatic strategy whereby they are taking down the Islamic Republic, but they're also taking down the Houthis, they're also taking down Lebanese Hezbollah, and they're making it very clear to countries like Qatar and Turkey perhaps, who are trying to, and Oman as well, countries that are trying to remain neutral and trying to benefit from supporting America's opponents, that they will not be allowed to do that.
You mentioned two things that I think they're related, and it concerns me a lot. And I'm going to give you the worst case scenario to see whether this concern is justified or not. And you tell me if this is something that we could be heading towards, or like maybe tell me like not to worry about this. But because we're talking about you talked about the current horrible conditions that the Iranian people were in even before any of this started, and all of that added on top of it, right? And then you're also talking about the way the United States is dealing with Israel as an ally. And this is what concerns me, because I think United States, and I don't know if many Americans understand this or not, but the main assets the United States has in the Middle East is the Israeli people and the Iranian people. And the Israeli people have been very pro-American, and the Iranian people are very pro-American. And I don't know if Americans know this, but polls after polls shows that the Iranian people's number one favorite country is the United States, right? And that's a huge asset to have, right? That's a huge asset to have. But there's two things that I'm afraid that Americans will do that might make them lose this asset, lose this political capital that they have in the Middle East. And I think they shouldn't underestimate how important this is. One is that I'm afraid that the Americans' economic pressure is for the sake of a deal, not for the sake of toppling the regime. And the reason why that might look like that is because the economic pressure, if it leads to an uprising that is not armed, is not going to topple the regime. It's just going to lead to another mass slaughter, right? No matter how big it is, it's just going to lead to a mass slaughter. It's not going to bring down the regime. So that makes some people suggest that this is only to bring the Islamic Republic back to the table and get a deal. And if a lot of Iranian people support the economic blockade, the economic isolation of the Islamic Republic, even if it means that they have to experience all this hardship, because their understanding is that if this is going to bring the toppling of the Islamic Republic, so be it, we'll go through it, right? But imagine if they go through all of this, and at the end of it, they see a deal, and they think like they were just being used to put pressure on the Islamic Republic, to do a Venezuela model, not to topple the Islamic Republic, but to bring somebody like Rodriguez in Iran to rule over the Iranian people under the current system, under the current framework. And what does that do if that ever happens? Them going through all that hardship and being in line with what the Americans want, because they expected this to be for the sake of regime change, but they see like they went through all of this, but it was just so that America could have a regime there that is still a problem to the Iranian people, but not a problem for the United States anymore. And that alongside with all this anti-Israeli messaging that is coming from with JD Vance and what was this other guy's name? Barack. I forgot his name. Yeah, from the Trump administration, the guy in Turkey.
Tom Barrack, yeah.
Tom Barrack, right? Mm-hmm. And all of this, sometimes President Trump messaging, having some anti-Israeli messaging and everything. And we could see already in Israel, like whether this is like 5D chess or like it's just for show. At the end of the day, in Israel, many Israelis are getting really upset with the current narrative that is coming out of the White House. And, Israel is a democracy. And at the end of the day, more and more an Israeli have this view is going to affect the way that the politicians are going to behave when it comes to the positions that they're going to take with regards to Israel. And I feel like the divide between Israel and the United States is going to grow. And then if the Iranian, Israel is the model ally of the United States. And the Iranian people are the greatest assets, the greatest asset that the United States has against the Islamic Republic. Nobody's going to put troops on the ground to do a mass invasion. United States is not going to do that. Israel is not going to do that. The only troops that you have on the ground against the Islamic Republic are the Iranian people. So Mike, the worst case scenario, which I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm just putting it out there for you to respond to it. What the concern is that the United States is going to lose the two nations that are the most pro-American in the Middle East if they choose this path. I don't know what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, you lay out a really serious concern. And, of course, there's a whole range of scenarios that may unfold over the next, let's say, 2-3 years, going into the next US administration, whoever that may be, would it be JD Vance? Would it be Marco Rubio? Would it be, a Democratic contender? And if so, would it be a sensible person like Mark Kelly, or would it be some Bernie Sanders sort of disciple? So there's an awful lot that can happen, and it can go pretty well. If you see, if you imagine a situation where you get regime change in Iran before the end of this administration, then you could see that could shift the whole calculus in the region very much in favor of the West, and in favor of people actually getting back to having sensible trading relationships and cordial foreign relations. But of course, it can go the other way, and the Islamic Republic can hold on. Israel can be, sort of unable to sustain U.S. support, and it can run into difficulties in Syria. It can run into difficulties with Turkey and things of that kind. You could even have a war within NATO, of course, because the Turks have been pretty menacing towards Greece, and Greece has been forming an increasingly close alliance with Israel. So there's a lot that can go wrong. And let's just briefly mention Russia-Ukraine on this as well, because you talked about Israel as a model ally, and it is. Ukraine is also a model ally for the United States. The US doesn't always seem to understand that. But again, the scenario where Ukraine prevails against Russia, I don't mean invades Russia. I mean it's able to prevent Russia. Russia has to give up on its agenda in Ukraine. That's a really positive outcome. But Ukraine collapsing or Russia, just being left to do whatever it wants to do, to brutalize the Ukrainian people. That's the sort of the nightmare scenario. So I agree with you. There's absolutely a possibility that we go the wrong way on this whole suite of issues, all of which are to some degree interrelated. And I do very much worry about this. I also want to endorse what you said about the greatest unrealized asset in the entire region, certainly, but I think I would argue in the entire world, is the Iranian people. The Iranian people are, I think, deeply pro-American because they have been brutalized and totally disillusioned by this horrible, oppressive regime for nearly half a century. So, I hate it when people say, oh, but look what happened in Iraq. Well, what happened in Iraq was because you had an Islamist opposition that was throwing over a secular dictator in Saddam Hussein. It was a completely different ideological, political, and philosophical background. Whereas in Iran, nobody in Iran is craving a harder line Islamic regime. That's not what people are looking for. The Iranian people are the great unrealized asset for America in the Middle East, and of course for Israel. And the Israelis fully understand that. And I watch this also play out on the streets of European cities and North American cities, because you get rival demonstrations, and one set of demonstrations is the useful idiots of the red-green alliance, if you like, in the West. The hard leftists in the West with the Islamist alliance, with pro-Hamas, pro-Houthi, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Islamic Republic demonstrators. And these guys all come out together shamelessly on the streets of London and elsewhere, and they wave the flag of the Islamic Republic, and they wave the flag of Hezbollah and of Hamas and all the others. And on the other side, you've got people waving Israeli flags and waving the lion and the sun, and waving flags of St. George or Union Jacks or Stars and Stripes. It's exactly as you say, it's absolutely clear that there is a potential alliance of peoples there that exists between the Americans and the Israelis and the Iranians. So I hope that Donald Trump himself and his key advisors recognize that if they were looking for one lock in which they could turn a key that would open a door to a better future, particularly in the Middle East region, then it's Iran. It is the empowerment of the people of Iran against the Islamic Republic. So I really hope that that's what they're thinking. But I completely agree with you about the risks. What does J.D. Vance really think about this? A lot of what he says is very unpromising. Tom Barak, why do you have a guy in Ankara who appears to be speaking with Turkish talking points, not American talking points? The other day, he said that Israel is occupying Syrian territory in the Golan Heights. Now, that is a direct repudiation of US official policy. It's a direct repudiation of his instructions from State Department. And it's a direct repudiation of one of the major policy initiatives of Trump 1, when Trump recognized the Golan Heights as part of Israel. So Barak, I think, has to go. I mean, I think he has to be fired, but I just don't know. The problem is that if you rely very heavily on business people who have complex motivations, not just national interests, but also private commercial motivations. And that's true of Barak, but it's also true of somebody like Steve Witkoff. This is one of the difficulties of the Trump administration. They don't really trust their officials. They've got great people in the Pentagon, great people in CIA, great people in state, and they think of them as being, unreliable, not sufficiently committed to the MAGA agenda. And they only really trust people with whom they've got some sort of past commercial partnership. And that's why you end up with these sort of overmighty envoys with a commercial background, people like Witkoff, people like Barak. And it is troubling because, it confuses American policy. It certainly confuses American allies. What are we supposed to do about this? If you're Israel, what do you do about someone like Tom Barak? You in a way, you have to just try and ignore him, really, because if you believed that what he was saying was actually US policy, then that would probably influence your policy in a way that actually is not appropriate, because essentially that's why Netanyahu is managing the relationship with Trump ad hominem. It's all done by visits. Netanyahu's been in and out of the White House more than any other global leader. And the reason he's done that is because he knows that if he gets face to face with Trump, he's able to correct any bad briefing that Trump has been getting from Witkoff or from Barak or others. So I would say it is all to play for. We just don't know which way the Americans are going to go. But I think that for as long as Trump is president, I think there will be a constant return or reset, coming back to the idea that Iran is the main enemy and that allies of Iran, whether it's the Houthis, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's North Korea, those allies of Iran are therefore identifying themselves as enemies of America. That's one of the reasons that I'm so keen on this economic blockade, or this, this economic D-Day, as they're calling it. If they hold on to that, then America's enemies will make themselves clear by the fact that they violate the trade embargo, they violate the sanctions. And that will gradually again bring Trump back to this sort of reset position where Iran is the enemy, can't be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Israel has been the main ally in this. Ukraine has defined itself as an ally in this. Ukraine has challenged shipping between Iran and Russia. Ukraine has, Zelensky has visited Saudi Arabia and the other countries of the Arabian Peninsula and offered them Ukrainian know-how and technology to help them to defend themselves against Iranian drones and Iranian attack. So I think that what we need is for these alliances to form up and formalize more than they have up to now. I think I'm optimistic on balance, but your pessimistic challenge, Armin, I think is very well founded, and it may be that it all goes the wrong way.
I appreciate your optimism. Thank you. We need that. Ali, is it okay if I highlight some people celebrating Edmund? So Edmund, this is somebody from inside Iran. Ali is saying, "Vay Mubarak Armin jun, mehmun kelle gunde va khafan dari payande bashin." So he's saying, "Wow, congratulations, Armin! What an amazing guest! Like a very big deal. Congratulations to you and good on you for having such a great guest." And this is from inside Iran, so I thought you would enjoy to read that message.
Nice to hear.
And there were somebody saying Edmund is an excellent guest. Amir from Israel saying love from Israel, Edmund. And then also we just wanted to highlight one more at the very top. Oh yes, Neil Bunny was saying, so excited about this guest, he's brilliant. So yeah, there were so many comments saying that in the chat, and I did want to remind people, I don't know if this is a good time for that, to go check out Edmund on FDD, making sure that I put the link in the chat. If you want to follow Edmund's work, the link that we put in the chat This is the page, right? This is the page that is linked to all your work.
That's it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, this is on FDD website. Yeah.
You guys can book Edmund if you'd like, and also please follow him on X. The link is going to be there on the FDD page that we put in the chat there for you guys as well.
And can I also emphasize LinkedIn as well, because I know LinkedIn is not everybody's favorite website because it sometimes seems a little bit sort of clumsy, but I have to say that I love LinkedIn and I use it all the time. And I have more than half as many followers on LinkedIn as I have on X. But I would say that, you know, the people who follow you on LinkedIn, they tend to be pretty serious-minded people. So so do look for me on LinkedIn as well as X.
Okay, I just connected with you on LinkedIn, so I accept that whenever you get the chance, Edmund. Let me see. Do I follow you on X? Yes, I do follow you on X. Fantastic. All right, guys. So make sure you go to his page on FDD and follow Edmund on X and LinkedIn. Sorry, Ali, go ahead.
Absolutely. I had a quick question. I think you might already have touched upon the answer in one of your previous interviews, so I just wanted to make sure. So a question that I got from people inside Iran was, why do you, in your opinion, why did it take so long for the British government to officially prescribe the IRGC as a terrorist organization? I believe you talked about this on your previous interview. It could be because when Donald Trump does come out and say we're going to wipe out a civilization, it actually puts a prime minister like Keir Starmer in front of the court of law potentially if he does join such a coalition. I was wondering what your take is.
Yeah, so I mean that point is important about, you know, the sort of limitations that operate particularly in European countries, because, you know, if you're a head of government, you know, you can absolutely be prosecuted, you can absolutely go to jail. That can happen, and, you know, of course, you know, Donald Trump has managed to create a situation where he has immunity from that, but Starmer didn't have that, and Andy Burnham doesn't have that. And, you know, I mean, we've already got a former French president who's been convicted, Sarkozy. So if you're a European leader, some of this American communication has been really problematic. It's, you know, because if you join a coalition, you have to have war aims, and if the commander-in-chief of your principal partner starts talking about a war aim, including destroying a civilization, even if it's, you know, like a sort of a throwaway thing that goes out on Truth Social in the middle of the night or something, the fact is that that can be read back in a court of law in Britain. So it was a real problem, you know, and this is something I've tried to explain to American friends that, you know, that whilst I'm not proud of the way that Britain has responded in this crisis, because I think it has been weak, and that's been true also to some degree of the Europeans in varying degrees. Let's say Spain has been absolutely awful, Germany's been better. But, you know, there's been a weakness, you know, running through Europe, but it is partly caused by the way the Americans have gone about this. Now, on the IRGC question in particular, I've been pushing for that for years, for the IRGC to be proscribed as a terrorist organization. Before Keir Starmer came to power, before Labour won the last election 2 years ago, it was part of his platform in opposition was that Labour would proscribe the IRGC as a terrorist organization. And it was the Conservative government of Rishi Sunak and his predecessors who would not do so. Now, that was always interesting to analyze at the time. There's no doubt that there was official advice against doing it. And I think that that had a good deal to do with the fear of how the Iranians would react. So in other words, if you declare an arm of the Iranian state to be a terrorist organization, then there is a risk that, you know, a country with a track record of storming embassies and taking diplomats hostage might do that to your embassy in Tehran. Now, my answer to that would have been to say, you know, if that's the case, then you can't safely keep an embassy in Tehran. And, you know, you may have to be very careful about this and make it clear to the Iranians that if they want to, you know, you're not going to tolerate the IRGC because the IRGC is directly involved in terrorist activity, but you're not throwing out Iranian diplomats, and you are going to maintain diplomatic relations if they want to. But of course, if they think that the IRGC is a deal breaker in having the diplomatic relationship, then okay, we'll shut down diplomatic relations. I think Iran would have stood to lose more from that than Britain would. I think the Iranians get more benefit from their embassy in London than Britain gets from its embassy in Tehran. So I did recommend that we should have been much more robust in that policy. Anyway, the time passed, and Rishi Sunak, obviously left, and then we got Keir Starmer in as Prime Minister. And it took them, as your questioner mentioned, it took them an incredibly long time to get round to doing what they had promised to do in opposition. I think they met with the same official advice. Now, when you're in opposition, you don't get as much exposure to official advice. But when you're in government, obviously, you get it all the time. And senior civil servants will say to you, we think this is a bad idea for this reason or that reason. So I think they were then exposed to objections of the same kind that the Conservative government had been exposed to. And it took them a long time to make their minds over it. There were other things going on at the same time. So the UK, I think, has shown weakness not just on that front, but it also has not declared the Houthis to be a terrorist organization yet. And it also has recognized a Palestinian state in the face of American opposition to that, but also in the face of skepticism from Germany, for example, and Japan, other major international players who said, no, we're not going to recognize a Palestinian state because we don't think that the Palestinian entity meets the conditions for recognition. And also, by the way, we're concerned about appearing to reward Hamas terrorism by providing this recognition. So my issue here is that I think Labour has been forming its policies on the Middle East almost by focus group. I think they basically are listening to their special political advisors, and those people are feeding back to them and saying, look, we have a broad range of constituencies in this country. Some of them are Jewish, some of them may well be, pro-Shah Iranians, but a large number of them are Islamists. Large number of them are originally from the Indian subcontinent, or originally from the Middle East, or originally from North Africa. And they form an increasingly large body of the voters that we're trying not to lose. And as you know, there are now MPs in the parliament who have been elected on what's called a Gaza First platform. So effectively saying, vote for me because I'm anti-Israel and I'm pro-Gaza, whatever that means. It actually means pro-Hamas, which actually means anti-Gaza, of course, but that's the way they present themselves. Yeah. So I think it's insane. Why would British voters vote for somebody who says, well, I don't really care about, whether your roads are working or whether your schools are in good, sufficiently resourced, or whether the National Health Service is breaking down. What I care about is what you think about this thing that's happening 2,000 miles away. It's absolutely nuts when you think about it. But unfortunately, we are living in a world where people are able to make themselves successful populists on the basis of foreign policy, where they have no understanding and actually no influence or ability to do anything about it anyway. Witness Mamdani in New York, witness Sadiq Khan in London, and this is happening in with mayors in other cities. Penny Wong in Toronto. So this is happening a lot around the West. And the problem with the Labour Party is I think it's afraid of its own shadow. So when people come to someone like Keir Starmer and say, you're going to lose the next election if you upset the Islamic constituency any more than you already have. So he said, well, okay, look, we gave them something over Palestine recognition, but we have to be tough about the IRGC because we said we would be. And people will say that we broke our promises and we're weak on national security. But let's not let's not make the Houthis a terrorist organization, because that way, you know, we're not sort of upsetting everybody. And I think it's almost like a sort of a mania for striking a balance, rather than taking the issues both on their ethical and moral dimensions and also on their actual merits.
Thank you for speaking on the United Kingdom's politics there. That was pretty enlightening for us. We do tend to follow everything we can. That was pretty good answer for that. Thank you very much. And I guess we would ask you this last question here that we had on the list. I think it's a good time to ask this. In your opinion, what does the West need to change regarding their outlook on the Middle East?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And it's one that I've written quite a lot on in recent years. And of course, I've made myself a little bit unpopular with some of my former colleagues by doing so. There is a fundamental thing that's gone wrong in British policy in the Middle East, and it's progressively gone wrong. I could identify the origins of it back in the 1990s, after the Cold War had been won, and I think the West lapsed into a sort of a post-Cold War complacency. There was a period when people said, oh, well, we've kind of won the argument. You know, the argument was against the communist Eastern Bloc, against the Soviet Union, and they've collapsed and they've sort of embraced capitalism. And so, you know, now we kind of just sit back and wait for everybody to think the way we think. You know, everyone's going to become tolerant, and everybody's going to end up sort of, you know, embracing the rules-based international system, and we can just build a nicer and better world. And you know, I saw this happening in real time, and I could see that it had a soft underbelly, and there was a lot of woolly thinking involved in this, and a lot of wishful thinking as well. Where I sort of started to see this as a growing problem was in the way that the UK was welcoming in large numbers of dissidents and let's call them political asylees, because in some cases that's what they were, coming from Muslim countries, particularly from, I mean, I was posted in Egypt at that time in the 1990s, and there were quite a lot of the leading Muslim Brotherhood figures who are still in Britain now. They actually arrived in Britain in the 1980s and 1990s, and the Egyptian government would come to us and they would say, "You do realise, don't you, that these guys are extremists?" And I would ask the question in London and say, look, you know, we're being warned that there are these extremists who are, you know, sort of building a sort of a constituency in London, you know, sort of building, you know, in some cases media platforms or whatever. And the Egyptians are saying they're extremists. And I would get this answer from London, which would be, oh no, you know, the Egyptians are, because Egypt is a dictatorship, they don't like political opposition. And therefore, all of these people are just political oppositionists, you know, and if Egypt would just be a nice democracy, then all these people would be able to go back to Egypt and they wouldn't need to be in London. And I could tell even then that that was a very naive response from London. They were unwilling even to look at it with an open mind. They were unwilling to say, well, hang on a sec, let's just have a proper look at these people and figure out whether they are actually whether these people are actually devoted to some form of systematic undermining of Western values, or whether they really are people who just believe in democracy and, you know, all they want is for the Middle East to become sweetness and light, like Western Europe is sweetness and light. And, you know, that whole sort of end of history argument, the end of the Cold War. And the reason I mentioned that in a little bit of detail is I think that then plays into subsequent decades where you saw other sort of similar losses of perspective on the real challenge to Western values and Western democracy, which comes from essentially from totalitarianism. Now, that totalitarianism can manifest in extreme right-wing politics. It does exist there as well. It can manifest, for example, in Russia. I mean, you could define Putin's regime in Russia as a sort of they've given up on communism per se, but they remain sort of Russian chauvinists, and in a way, their attitude is kind of that. The breakup of Putin says the great breakup of the Soviet Union was the greatest tragedy in history. Now that's a Russian nationalist speaking. What he's basically saying is, I'm not exactly a communist. I'm a very wealthy man, and I'm running an oligarchy. I'm running a sort of a kleptocracy of all these oligarchs who prop up my regime. So we're not communists anymore. But what we're really saying is that Russia has some sort of historical destiny, and that's partly tied up now in his philosophy with the Russian Orthodox Church as well. So it's not communism, it's a kind of a neo-nationalism. In some ways, it is extreme right. It's white supremacist, and it's also sort of Christian supremacist in a certain way. But it can also manifest in communist absolutism, like China. China is very much in that space. You could argue that was sort of what Hugo Chavez or Maduro represented in Venezuela. Arguably, that's what Cuba still represents. And of course, it has grown in the Middle East in terms of Islamist totalitarianism. Now, that Islamist totalitarianism can be found in the Taliban in Afghanistan. It can be found in the Islamic Republic of Iran. It can arguably be found in Syria now, although there is a game to be played out in Syria to see whether that country can be sort of diverted away from going down this sort of what ultimately is a dead end. It always ends badly when you embrace this kind of Islamist totalitarianism. But of course, to some degree, what the Islamist totalitarians have recognized is that they have a constituency in the West, and so they're actually working on that constituency in the West. So what I think sorry, there's a very long answer to your question, but to finish the answer, I think what I want to see change in British Middle Eastern policy is I want to see us properly align ourselves with people who believe in the international, who actually want to see peace, want to see peace agreements, want to see trade, believe in freedom of navigation, the law of the sea, do not engage in sponsorship of terrorism. And in that respect, we may have reservations about Saudi Arabia in some ways, but Saudi Arabia is fundamentally a status quo power. It's a power that believes in investing heavily in, future technology, in trade, and basically the Saudi model and the Emirati model can only succeed if they have peace and if you have reliable waterways. You can move your oil, you can trade, and all those sorts of things. Israel, people may have reservations about some aspects of Israeli state policy. It may be that Israel will have to make compromises over some form of territorial accommodation of the Palestinian Arabs. It's not clear to me what form that will take. I'm not clear exactly what form their accommodation with Syria will have to take. But, you can say that the Israelis are asking too much. You can say that maybe they're too aggressive in some of what they do. But fundamentally, Israel is looking for peace agreements. They're ready to sign a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia today, if the Saudis are willing to do it. They're willing to sign a peace agreement with anyone in their region. They would sign a peace agreement with Damascus if it came with the right guarantees of non-aggression and of Syria not becoming a forward base for some form of threat to Israel. So we need to line up with countries that ultimately, however difficult their lives are and however challenging their policies sometimes are, ultimately, like us, they are invested in future peace and stability, rather than countries which are invested in future chaos and challenging the status quo, which includes Russia, which includes North Korea, which includes Iran, and which includes all of these Iranian-backed proxies. So that's what I want to see happen. I want the UK to announce in no uncertain terms, and by the way, I think this is a very widespread view in the UK. I think it probably is the underlying assumption by which even people like Ed Miliband and Andy Burnham, who can often seem to be very much on the sort of the leftist side, very pro-Palestinian, but I think there is an underlying assumption in British policy that we know who our enemies are, and that our enemies include the Islamic Republic of Iran and include Russia. And by that, you can tell who your friends are.
So, Edmund, the way I don't know if this is matches what you're saying or not, but the way I look at the world, and it might be simplistic or not, is I see the forces for liberty and the forces for tyranny, liberty versus tyranny. And there's a software and there's a hardware for each side. So the forces for liberty, the software is Enlightenment values, classical liberal values, the Western values, basically free speech, secularism, democracy, capitalism, and the hardware are the main frameworks, the main nation states that are fighting for that. The main forces for that of those values are United States, Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, the Iranian people. That's one side. And the other side,
and alliances like NATO and the European Union and things of that kind. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think everybody else, other than the ones that I mentioned, are just mostly, they're not at the front lines. They're tapped into the system, to the framework that they provide. Like, they're not stepping up. The ones that I mentioned, like Israel, Ukraine, United States, are the main force that is keeping this framework. Everybody else is just tapping into it and taking advantage of this framework, but they're not at the front lines making this happen, right? But in a similar way, on the other side, we have the forces of tyranny, and the main players in that is the Islamic Republic, the CCP, and Putin, and to some extent North Korea, and the people who benefit from that system are tapping into that, like Hashashabi, Hezbollah, Hamas. They're all tapped into that system. They might not be the front players, but they're tapped into it, and they're taking advantage. And there's also these countries that are trying to have both ways, take advantage of both systems, like Qatar, for example, right? Leverage both of them. And I think that our side, the liberty side, the greatest strength of it is that because it promotes liberty, it becomes more prosperous, and because it becomes more prosperous, it has the ability to have more economic leverage, cultural leverage, and more military leverage. And that's why it could defeat its enemies. But the greatest weakness of it is that because it's democratic, its enemies cannot defeat it in the battleground, because it has such big economies that it could afford big armies. But because it's democratic, instead of trying to invade the capital with military, they try to invade the capital by just migrating there and changing the demographic and voting in a way that they would just have a seat at the tables of power, and they just have the command over the army rather than defeating the army. And that's the weakness on our side, and that's what we need to solve.
So I think that's a brilliant analysis. I would endorse every single word of that. This gives me a chance also to plug a book that was recently released by my FDD colleagues. It's called The Axis of Aggressors. There are a number of my colleagues who are directly involved in it. Perhaps the most prominent person involved in editing, and also the sort of person who's been most visible promoting the book is Brad Bowman, who's an expert on military matters, but also on these countries. Now, you brilliantly just mentioned exactly the four members of the Axis of Aggressors: North Korea, China, Russia, and Iran. So this book identifies them as the axis of aggressors. And of course, yes, when you talk about the real sort of vectors of the defense of democracy, we're called the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And when we define what we do as FDD, we actually look and we say, well, which democracies are we defending? We're defending, obviously, the United States. Certainly, we're defending like-minded NATO allies. But we are also very specifically defending Israel against Iran. we are defending Taiwan against China. We're defending South Korea against North Korea. So exactly as you said. And so, I mean, I think, when you say Israel and Ukraine, you're right. These are really, really big vectors. And of course, these are militarily hugely capable countries because both of them have been tried through fire. They're battle hardened. They've got very, very high levels of motivation, technology, education. Ukraine is sometimes described as the arsenal of democracy. And I mean, you can make that same case for Israel. You look at the US-Israeli defense partnership. I think the United States gets almost as much out of it as Israel does. So this is really important stuff. And what we should be doing is expanding that axis of, that axis of democracy, the people who are counteracting the axis of aggressors. It should wholeheartedly include South Korea. But the South Koreans, they need guarantees. They need to know that in joining the axis of democracy, the axis of defenders of democracy, that they are also they're going to benefit from the kind of defense that they would need from North Korea at some point. So this is where I worry a little bit about mixed messaging, where South Korea is occasionally left to believe that the US is a little bit tired of it, a little bit tired of giving it guarantees against North Korea. We should wholeheartedly be embracing the South Koreans, who bring, again, a massive economy, massive technological capability, and potentially significant military forces as well. Japan, of course, is obviously another one of these as well. So yeah, I think you're exactly right about this, and that's where we need to be focusing our lines to make absolutely clear who these instrumental allies are. And we also need, you talk about the passengers, for example, in NATO or in the European Union, and they need to be put on notice and told, and this is where Trump is right, of course. And Trump has said to NATO partners, if you don't spend enough on defense, why should we defend you? And, some countries have stepped up to that and some have not. And I think, you gradually increase that pressure. I think, by the way, that this economic blockade on Iran can reinforce that policy, because you can also be saying to some of those weaker members of the Western alliance, and by the way, don't think that we won't notice if you're sort of quietly paying off people who are actually involved in trade with Iran in some form or another. So, I think these things can be mutually reinforcing. What we need to recognize is that we are in a new Cold War, and it's a different kind of Cold War. Yes. But you're right when you describe it. The Cold War is against that group of tyrants, and that tyranny can be far-right tyranny, it can be white supremacist tyranny, but it can equally be communist tyranny. And it's very much also about Islamist tyranny. And what links them is being anti-Western. And so ideologically, they are incoherent, except in what they oppose. They want to oppose Israel. They want to oppose the West. They want to oppose America. They want to oppose democracy wherever it happens. And then the last thing I want to say, and this also to some degree, it circles back to something that we were saying earlier, the question of optimism versus pessimism. Where is this all going to go? Are we going to prevail, or is the axis of aggressors going to prevail? One of the strongest things that we have on our side is the thing that you identified when you said about freedom of thought, freedom of the economy, innovation, science, challenge. All of those things build resilience. They build robust systems. They build systems where merit prevails rather than who you know, where if somebody gets something wrong, they'll be told that they've got it wrong, and then you go back to it and you get it right. The whole sort of principle of science, which is that, you have a theory, but if that theory is proved wrong, then you then get a better theory, which is based on scientific evidence. And that is one reason why we are so strong. You're right. It's why people come to the West, because they see it prosperous and successful. And you're right also that because of people coming to the West who can't get their heads around the sort of the ideological side of that, you also bring in a lot of fifth columnists and a lot of people who seek to undermine the West from the inside. But there's one final point, and that is the weakness of the enemy. So yeah, that weakness is manifested in a lack of challenge. It's manifested in a lack of science, a lack of innovation, a lack of robust systems. And one of the biggest things in our favor is that autocrats make mistakes. And they make mistakes because they don't listen to advice. And they often don't even get advice because the first person who tells them something they don't want to hear either loses their job or is put in prison or worse. And so you end up with people like Saddam Hussein, who has got nobody telling him the truth because nobody dares to tell him the truth. And so, of course, he eventually goes over the precipice because of his own hubris and the lack of advice. And the best recent example of this, of course, is precisely the MOU, isn't it? The MOU was taking us to the outcome that you were dreading, the outcome where the US walks away with a bad deal, leaves the regime in place, but, you know, at least Trump can say, well, okay, but they're going to leave us alone, and we're happy enough with the nuclear guarantees, and we're tired of the Middle East anyway. And so if the Iranians were smarter, if the regime was smarter, I should say, not the Iranians, but if the Islamic Republic was smarter, they would have seen the MOU as a fantastic opportunity. If they had just shown the smallest amount of flexibility, they probably could have turned that MOU into a more lasting ceasefire, and the Americans would gradually have stood down, and the Islamic Republic would have been left in a position of, you know, military authority in the region. But because they can't take the right decisions, they don't get good advice, because basically if you don't say America is the great Satan and it has to be brought to its knees and destroyed and Israel has to be annihilated and all the rest of it, if you don't say that, then you're betraying the revolution and you're betraying their idea of Islam. Then that advice doesn't get through, and everybody's competing to be more hardline than everybody else, and you end up ripping up the MOU, a document that was massively in the Islamic Republic's interests to preserve, and they've ended up ripping it up. So in the end, the thing that may save us is our enemy's foolishness.
Perfectly said. Love that.
When that came
we
out,
screw up, they screw up more, so we're good.
exactly. Yeah, right. Every game is just a game of who makes less mistakes. If you make less mistakes, you win.
True. You sound like a chess player.
Yeah, I grew up playing video games. Realized that pretty soon. And so I'm not sure how much longer we can have you here for. I think we've taken so much of your time already.
I think we should. We took so much of his time, so I'm just gonna, because usually we have an hour with him. I don't know why Edmund has been so generous with his time.
Yeah,
hopefully,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edmund. I'm just gonna mention one. Yeah, say.
That's a great conversation, and it's the end of my afternoon, so it's not a problem at all because I didn't have another thing that I had to go and do. And what else would I rather do than be having these absolutely essential conversations about some of the most important issues of our time? So it's wonderful. But I think you're probably right. We probably should wrap, but with the, again, like last time, the assurance from me that I want to do this again.
Oh my God! Thank you so much for saying that. That's an honor.
Anytime.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. That makes me very proud of, that means we did a good job for you to say that. Thank you, Edmund. We would be honored to have you as many times. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of updates. So we're going to need to get your input as soon as we get some updates. So we'll be in touch. Guys, please go follow our guest. Again, I put the link one more time in the chat. This is his page on FDD's website, and you can see his X account and his LinkedIn account on that page. So please go and follow him over there and follow his work, and his work should be on this page as well. All right. So Edmund, we're gonna stick around a little bit more to hang out with our audience. Just interact with them, but we're gonna let you go, and thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. And again, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Like, I learned so much from you every time I speak to you, and we hope to get to take advantage of your time again pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Yes,
it's been
please.
a huge pleasure, and I really look forward to the next time.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Bye
That
for
was
now.
amazing. Have a great evening.
You too. You too.
Thank you, Edmund. Okay, that was fantastic.
That was great.
That was
All
great.
right. So, guys, let's see what you guys have had to say today. Beginning with a couple of new members. Joseph,
Welcome.
welcome on board, as well as God
Thank you,
Mad.
Joseph.
What?
No, godmade.us.
Godmade.us. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, like
Check
a
that
website.
website,
Gotcha.
guys. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being a member. God is not mad, Ali. God made the US. He's not mad. But I'm just kidding.
No comment. Thank you guys for getting on board there. Very much
Thank
appreciated. And our first super chat is from Nail Bunny, who says, "So excited about this guest. He's brilliant." He saw your
Thank
super chat.
you.
That was great.
Yes, I highlighted that. Yeah, thank you, Nail Bunny. That was very sweet that you put that there so I could show him during the show. Are you still here, Nail Bunny? Somebody's saying surprised to hear that from an avowed atheist. Yeah, I mean, guys, us atheist people, we don't die if we mention the name of God, you know. So we're not like vampires. Like, wow, Armin, why would you say that? Aren't you an atheist? Like, yeah, it's like just because we're an atheist, it doesn't mean like we're gonna melt or something. Because if we say something like that, okay. I know you were joking. I'm joking back. All right. Yes.
Thank you, Nail Bunny. And our next one is from Shauna, who says, "Prince Ali." Also, thank you, Edmund.
Prince Ali.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes, thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. I know some of you obviously were not liking what he was saying, but we very much enjoyed it. And he's absolutely on board with us, guys. He's not just saying these things to appear this way. He is genuinely in line with what we believe.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody that, guys, there's absolutely nobody that you're going to find that you're going to 100% agree with, including yourself. I don't agree with myself from a week ago, right? So if you hear something that you don't agree with, like, you shouldn't dismiss a person completely just because, like, oh, I don't agree with that one, what that one line or that's a point that they had over there. There's a lot that you could, like, obviously when somebody has studied these things so much, they might have some things that you disagree with, but you still have a lot to learn from them on many of them. And even if they say something that you disagree with, if you try to hear their reasoning for why they have that position, and even if you don't agree with their reasoning, understanding their reasoning will provide you a lot more context for why some people believe that, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Shauna. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I think Shauna particularly enjoyed when Edmund was talking about how the UK actually did seem weak on some certain things. I feel like that very much. And and quickly, guys, so everything that we had regularly, we will show you guys tomorrow, including the alligrams, just because it is already getting towards the end here. I did try to touch upon all the main points, but there's going to be stuff that we'll show you tomorrow as well.
Tomorrow, yeah.
And our next one is from Sarah Ocean, who says, "Quite the gentleman's panel tonight. Thank you." Yeah, that was great.
Well, thank you.
It's great. Thank you, Sarah. Again,
thank you, Sarah.
I'm waiting for the day that you send a negative message. Thank you so much, Sarah.
She has sent negative messages towards me, not towards you. She doesn't. She
doesn't count.
It doesn't count. Okay, only the ones against Ali counts apparently. Okay. She's actually quite used to it now. She doesn't like me anymore. I noticed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, you're just saying that so she says that's not true.
No, I don't care. You could go ahead. Be gone, woman.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
I'm kidding.
Oh, I mean, and our next one is from Fizz Andresis, who says, "What a great honor, Ali and Armin. Thank you, Edmund, Fitton-Brown, and FDD for your amazing work in advocacy." I think he really liked it.
Yes, I think
he stayed extra.
Yes, I like talking to Edmund because I can see that he enjoys talking to us, because I think that he appreciates the level of nuance that he gets exposed to here, compared to other places, because I think that the questions that he might get, like in so many other places that he gets invited, makes him understand that his level of knowledge is not going to be appreciated as much. And I think based on what we ask here and what we tell him here, he knows that when he goes into a lot of detail, it's being appreciated for how, it's being properly appreciated because we're understanding what he's talking about. And I think that's why he enjoyed talking to us. Yes. Oh, look at this. Somebody saying you really ask great questions. Well, thank you. Appreciate you saying that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you so much, Fizz, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Our next one is from Setara with the super sticker. Thank you, Setara.
Thank you. Thank you, Setara.
Great support as always. It's always you guys keeping us propped up with all your support. And our next one is from Ehef. It says, question for Edmund. We have 40 days of oil left. What happens if we run out? Won't the IRGC quit? Who's we? We like America?
He's talking about I think he's talking about U.S. oil reserves.
They're the lowest they've been in 50 years now. Previously it was 40 years, now it's 50.
Is it true that there's 40 days left? Because I don't understand why. So. Because here's the thing: oil reserves, you can buy oil in the market, right? And to replenish your reserves. So I don't understand where this 40 days is coming. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just want to know where this 40 days is coming from. Because at the end of the day, if you're running out of oil reserves, what that means is that you have to buy it at the market to replace it. And this is just it's not like you have to pay extra for it. So this is just a financial issue. It's not like a security issue. It's not like, oh my God, we have no oil and there's nowhere to get it anymore. It just means that you have to buy it now from the market. So where is help me understand where is this 40 days coming from? Because I'm not saying you're wrong. I just want to understand it.
Well, 40 days, I mean, it's a tough statement to make. You have, because we don't have that data. We don't work at the energy department, but I highly doubt it's 40 days. I think, oh my God, did you imagine the panic that would be going on if we actually had 40 days of oil left in the United States of America? That would be insane. No, I think it's something else entirely. The oil reserves are just how much we have stored in reserve that we have to release out. We can just always buy more, and we have been buying Saudi oil.
Yeah, and I know you keep saying that. You say we make more than we use. That's what you say this every time, and every time I explain that it's a global supply and demand thing. It's not if there is a lot of demand for oil globally, the extra oil that the United States makes there will be demand for it globally. It's not like the United States oil is just for United States. So the idea that the United States makes more than it's uses is irrelevant to the point that there's more demand for the oil than globally, not just in the United States. Like, it's not like United States doesn't exist in isolation, in a vacuum, and it's an island that, like, oh, we have more than we sell, so we're going to be good. No, if there is global demand and not enough supply, even if you have more, if United States makes more than it uses, there will be shortage. Because if all of this is decided globally, not just in the U.S.
Yep. Decided globally. Perfect point. So don't worry. We don't have 40 days. Just if you don't see the panic all over the news about that 40, I mean, it would be insane. Also, I just don't see a world in where the United States will financially quit before the IGC will. But good question.
Good question. Fitton just is saying the point is that if we are in an emergency, we could mandate no exports to truly defend ourselves strategically, or you could just buy. right? Like you don't have to mess with the markets. You could be like, oh, we need more oil, and what we're producing is not enough. If you need oil, you could just buy oil. Just this is why recently United States was buying a lot of Saudi oil. So here's the question: if people say like, oh, we're producing more than we're consuming, well, then explain to me why just recently so many ships from Saudi Arabia was going to the United States. So many ships were leaving United States selling oil, but also United States was buying Saudi oil. So you see how this is decided globally. You don't need to stop the flow of global trade. If there is more demand and if you need more than you have, you buy. Easy.
Yeah, guys, don't worry about the amount of oil that we have in our reserves. Worry about the rate at which it's getting emptied out. That's the big indicator there. And our next super chat is from Joanne, who says, "Thank you, Mr. Fitton-Brown." Thank you, Joanne. One of the people that we highlighted on the screen, who also says, "Ali, you should get in touch with Lily Moo. She would be great on the show. Everyone would love her also." Okay. You know what? I'll do it. Let's see if I can get a hold of her. I'm still technically a nobody, but hopefully it'll get through.
Wait, can I respond to this as well? Sean is saying we do love to drill our own, though, but Armin is correct. I mean, yes, I agree with both of them, and there's no but in between because they don't contradict each other. Because everything is decided globally, when United States has access to more oil, then it sells more and makes more money, right? So drilling your own means that you're contributing. Like, it's not drilling your own doesn't mean that you're relying more on your own. It also means that you're providing more oil globally to this international market, which I mean, I love that the United States, I support the United States drilling more oil because energy is everything. So everything, guys, the whole world is about three things, okay? Energy, intelligence, motivation, or desire. Everything runs by these three things: energy, intelligence, and desire. Yeah. So energy is one third of everything.
To a physics level there.
Yes.
And thank you very much, Joanne, who also says, "Does Edmund remember when Iran was taken over? What was the news showing at the time 47 years ago?" Oh, man, dang. Should ask him that there. But I mean, I mentioned his answer would be that the media suddenly painted him in a terrible light, and they were saying it's good that he has to go, and there's going to be a new, Muslim leader of Iran who's going to make everything free, probably something like that, perfectly ignoring all of the Shah's achievements. Just absolutely traitorous newspapers and media coverage back then. Yeah. A lot of Americans were very sad to see him go because of his good relationship with Nixon and the good things that they were hearing for the years before about the Shah. And all of a sudden they hear that he, the media is painting out to be terrible. Just so dumb. The media is always your enemy. Always your enemy. Always.
No, I don't agree with that. The media is always your enemy. It depends on who's on the media. We're the media right now. And it depends on who's in media. Like, there are many different, there are many good journalists and commentators on both alternative and mainstream media. I think you have to judge them individually.
The big media.
Big media. No, I don't. There's so many investigative journalists and people that, even from mainstream media, that go in the front lines and in the most dangerous places to dig information that me and you are just sitting back and commenting on, and we wouldn't even have the information to comment on unless they were in the field risking their lives to collect that information. So I think we have to judge individually each person and each commentator and each report, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I think we have to judge individually. But maybe I'm wrong.
And thank you so much, Joanne, for the super chats. Really appreciate that. Very kind.
Thank you.
Shoot, there we go. Okay, and our next one is from Bill Kennedy, who says, "How much is China willing to spend to prop up the IRGC?" I can tell you that answer exactly. America is going to put pressure. They already did on China, just a little bit. And then China responded in measure. Okay. And they said, we are trading with Iran in accordance to international law. So they match the US so far. The US hasn't actually put sanctions on China yet. Will they? And then we have to see if China's going to match it. So however much China is willing to match the US on and however much the US is willing to go, that's going to be your exact answer. At the moment, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. But if the US were to suddenly put some sanctions on Chinese banks, are the banks willing to lose the dollar system to support the Islamic Republic? Probably not. Probably not. China doesn't want to let go. We're going to force them to let go. That's the idea that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wants to implement. The question is he going to get the go-ahead from his higher-ups, like Donald Trump, to actually go all the way?
Yeah, and for people have to understand that for China, the Islamic Republic is not just a financial decision; it's a survival decision to make, right? Because the Islamic Republic is not just a cheap source of energy for the CCP. It's also one of the main ways to keep the United States occupied and have its resources tied up in the Middle East, so that United States doesn't have all of its resources available to it to deal with China in the Pacific. So that's why China supports the Islamic Republic, because it's one of the most important proxies of the CCP against the United States.
There you go, Bill. Hopefully that answers that. And Fit Over 50 Fitness, thank you for the jewels. Appreciate that. Teresa Betancourt with the super sticker. Thank you so much, Teresa, who was also saying in the chat, please be respectful of our guest. A lot of you guys were saying that. Thank you so much.
I mean, he couldn't see it. I mean, it wasn't on the screen. You guys could mention your opinions, as long as, yeah. If you disagree with our guests, but in the future, if you disagree with our guests, feel free to say it in the chat. Like, I do want to, the people who disagree in the chat, gives me some, like, it gives me some ideas on what to ask. So don't feel like you don't need to mention that, right? This is why we removed the chat from the screen anyways, so you guys could be more free to voice your opinions. Yeah. Yes,
yeah, as long as it's good to be respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
And our next one is from Bill Kennedy, who says, and dual uprising or double uprising, the IRGC side will have guns. What about the people? The objective is to reduce the amount of guns that the IRGC side has while increasing the guns that the people has. At the same time, discouraging the people who do have guns and have not already left, that there is no future for them if they don't lay down their arms and the people actually reach them in the end. There's going to be nothing left of them. Metaphorically, of course. Yeah. And so Bill Kennedy,
they won't be armed unless the United States or Israel or Ukraine figure out a way to arm the Iranian people, or else we have to wait for the Iranian people to find a way to arm themselves, which is going to take a lot longer, unfortunately.
And so that's where you guys should actually look out for Ukraine, because everyone expects Israel to enter the conflict eventually, but no one's going to expect Ukraine to enter. And you see Prince Reza Pahlavi meeting with Zelensky and talking about Ukraine so much. So there has to be something, some meat to the story there. Great question, Bill Kennedy. Thank you so much. And Funsun, who says, if you're enjoying today's stream, please tap the like button. Thank you so much, Funsun, for also moderating.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, guys, if you like the stream, it really helps the show get seen by more people, and it grows our channel. So please go ahead and like the stream. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And wow, we've got analysts on the show now. It's getting bigger every day. Ooh, yeah. I know.
Yeah, we're getting serious now.
I know. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
And Between Capital says, congrats on the confetti, Ali. That was 3
Yes, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so you won today. And that's Elisa. And let me actually give you the link to her channel. for you guys to go subscribe to her. Hold on, guys. Elisa was on our panel earlier today, and she was amazing. Where's the link? Yes, guys, please go support Elisa. She does such a great job. Okay, here, I'll put the link in the chat for everybody, and let me see how many subscribers she managed to get now.
Let's subscribe ourselves.
Okay, yeah, Ali subscribed to you as well now. So between here, let me go here and change the layout back to how it used to be. So yes, this is her channel, and 80 subscribers, guys, on her first day. On her first day, she's already getting up to 100. Yes. So guys, I'll put the link again in the chat. Please go subscribe to Elisa. Hopefully 82 now, guys. We might get to 100 by the end of today.
Yeah,
so
83 now. Let's do it.
Oh, 83.
All right. Sweet.
Let's go.
And thank you for the super chat, who also became a member of both of our channels. Woo!
Wow, thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you, Elisa.
Thank you so much, Elisa. And S. Carter, who says, please like the stream. So much good information. Ooh,
yes.
We're gonna raise the quality of our information as time goes on. And oof, no limit. Thank you, S. Carter.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to see more guests like that? People like from FDD, Iranian analysts, etc. Let us know. And Shauna, with our next, someone has said, Ali, are you Shia Muslim? No. And Shauna with the next super chat, who says,
Wait. Guys, you saw how Ali had to respond to this?
I had to respond.
Like he had to respond to this. Like he saw it, like, okay, I can't let that go. So Ali, are you Shia Muslim? Okay, guys, somebody is asking me, are you a Shia Muslim? No. Okay, go back to Shauna. Ali is so allergic to this. Like he couldn't let that go.
Can't do it. Immediate no.
Oh my god. Immediate.
And our next super chat is from Shauna, who says, America has a hard time with monarchy. We need to talk about the return of the sovereign. I agree 100% it's a mistake not to recognize the Shah. You know why? Because the Shah isn't saying, I want to come back and be a king. He's saying, I just want to lead a transitional government. The people themselves can decide what they want. So that would mean the USA is not in support what the Iranian people want. If the Iranian people want a monarchy, you have to support that. You have a choice if you're a supporter of the Iranian people. Anyway, that was convoluted, but
thank you, Shauna, for saying it. Shauna, you have no idea how much I appreciate you. Every single day, the more I hear from you, the more I listen to you, the more I realize how big of a treasure you are. Thank you. Thank you for being on our side. Like you're a weapon that needs to be unleashed against our enemies.
Shauna's channel? Question mark?
No, what did I say?
No, I mean, Shauna should make a channel. Yeah.
Shauna, I've already shoot Shauna. So it's funny that you say, Ali, we're connected because I am talking to Shauna and she is making a channel. Yes.
Sweet.
So she's on our list of the on the new channels that we're going to have on our panels. So yeah, see, Ali and I think alike.
Take my advice. The sooner you start, the better. You'll always wish you started sooner. And yeah.
Wait. Now that you're giving people that advice, guys, anybody who wants to start a YouTube channel about politics, okay, what you can do if you want to take advantage of Liberty Politics and all the other people in Liberty Politics who would be promoting your channel is for you to join our discussion group, right? Join our discussion group, come talk to us there, show that you are a good contributor in fighting for liberty. And then once we see that you are, good at speaking and a great fight on our side, then we will approach you and we'll ask you if you're interested in either starting your own YouTube channel or promoting the one that you already have. And then you will come on our panels on Liberty Politics, and you will be on with us and talk about different political related topics. And then we will promote your channel and help you grow your YouTube channel, right? So if you're interested in taking advantage of our community, come to join our discussion group. The link is in the description. The link is in the QR code at the top left, and come participate in our group calls. And not only you will be able to get promotion of your channel, you will also be able to find other people there that you would be able to bring on your live streams and collaborate with, because it's easier to do this with other people than by yourself. And you will have me, you will have Ali, you would have Elisa, you will have Shana, you will have Guy, and other people there to collaborate with to help grow your YouTube channel. So this is what this hub is about. So come and take advantage of the discussion group that we have here to start or grow your YouTube channel. And Monkey, yes. Oh, by the way, Monkey, guys, Monkey will become is away for a while. He's going to come back soon. He's dealing with local problems. But do subscribe to Monkey's channel, and that's in the description as well. So support the Monkey. Okay.
Yeah. And thank you, Shauna, for the super chat.
Thank you.
And Between Capitals sends us a super chat as well, who I think only needs 3 or 1 more subscriber to reach 100.
One more. Wait. Let me not refresh. You're right. Guys, look at this. Who's gonna be number 100? She got 99 on her first day. 99. Okay,
number 99, going fast. Number 99, number 100.
Guys, she got 10% of the way to 1,000 subscribers on her first day. That's amazing. So get her to 100. Let me see. Maybe it's already at 100 now. 101. You did it. We did it. We did it. Amazing.
Wow. Who is number 100?
Yes.
All right. And
Between
Capitals said, we didn't have a good experience with monarchy. Yeah, it was also 250 years ago.
Yeah, you didn't have a good experience with monarchy because you had a taxation without representation, and you had a bad monarch. Okay, so yeah, it's true. You should have risen up against monarchy because you had a bad monarch. And honestly, we had bad monarchs too, right? The Iranian people, not all monarchies are good monarchies. The Iranian people hate the Qajar monarchy. The Iranian people are not pro all monarchy. The Iranian people are pro Pahlavi monarchy.
Yeah.
Qajar, the Iranian people hate Qajar monarchy, right? So not all monarchy is good monarchy, and you guys were completely in the right to rise up against your monarchy, for sure.
Yeah. We also had monarchies for, well, at least 3,000 years, definitely more, probably closer to 5,000 years of history there in terms of monarchies. And we have 47 years where we're not a monarchy, and then look what happened. So maybe we should go back to monarchy. I don't know.
No, you got no. United States is good. Different nations have different systems that works best for them, and United States has the best system for United States. So constitutional monarchy is the best system for us. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm saying Iran. Yeah. We had 5,000 years of history. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I thought you were speaking as.
Oh no.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
And Effie, thank you for the jewels.
Woo!
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Effie.
And our next super chat is from Nyla. Says, did I miss Armin sharing his interview on Newsmax with Goldie? Unfortunately, yes. He said to remind him. Here's a reminder, Armin. Jabi cha. Jabi cha.
Oh, yes. We did share it, Nyla. Maybe Nyla message me on school. Are you in school community? Message me there. I'll send you the link.
I think it was 2 days ago, 2 streams ago, I think.
2 streams
2 or
ago,
3.
yes.
2 or 3, yeah. Something like that.
Yes. And
Time
thank you, Nala.
flies.
Thank you for... Yes. Nala, look at this. People are interested in my Newsmax interview. That's very sweet. Today I did an OAN interview with Chanel. So I don't know if they're going to send me that video, but if I...
Sweet.
Oh, I was my best. Oh my God, guys. Today I did an OAN interview, and I think I did so good. I hope I hope they send me.
Yeah,
the
you were
video.
sharp today.
It's one of my... Really?
Yeah, your mind was working faster than your words too. I could see it. I was like, oh, that's what I do.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, I try to slow myself down.
thank you, Ali. I appreciate you saying that. You know, guys, a compliment from Ali is more valuable than compliment for most people. Okay, because Ali is a smart guy. So when Ali says something like that, I'm like, okay, that's pretty nice. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
And thank you, Nyla, for reminding us.
Thank you, Nella. And thank you for Nella
And-
for looking after me,
Yeah.
making sure that I know. A reminder. Thank you.
And CJ has our next super chat, who says, Armin, the United States will need help to bring in a new regime, like a massive pro-Pahlavi marches and local insurgent groups. Maybe Israel can help with this?
Yes.
Local insurgent groups to support Prince Reza Pahlavi? I don't think we'll even need that. We'll have so much popular support. The local insurgent groups will be
No.
the pro-Islamic Republic groups that are trying to stop that from happening.
I think he's talking about like Javid Noms turning into groups, armed groups that are working like with each other.
Before the Islamic Republic falls.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I read this as like the Islamic Republic has fallen and then. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that I think the United States arming the Iranian people and helping with creating local groups that will fight back against the regime. If the United States wants to move with, wants to push for that strategy, it absolutely would need Israel's help with that, because Israel has nobody has the intelligence that Israel has and the connections and the networks that Israel has within Iran. Nobody has that. So absolutely, if and when they want to do this, they have to do it in collaboration with Israel. 100%, you're correct.
Thank you, CJ.
And
Who
thank
also
you, CJ.
says, America has few allies that want us to succeed. Completely correct. And then Edmund's
Yes.
point was, it's not helping the US's case either in finding new allies when they have these mixed messages constantly. So thank you very much, CJ, for
Thank
the
you.
super chats there. You're absolutely right. And then we have a big super chat from Legitimate Gaon, who says, Israel, Iran, انقلاب تحمیلی.
Yeah, انقلاب تحمیلی, forced revolution. So
Oh, yeah.
the way I might, first of all, thank you so much for a very generous super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is very generous. Thank you so much for that. Second of all, if you mean by انقلاب تحمیلی, you're saying that we will force this revolution of the Islamic Republic, then I 100% agree. If that's what you mean. Wait.
Yes.
What are those? Yes. Yes. If
It's
that's
also
what you
funny.
mean. I don't know.
They call us the anti-revolutionaries, but we are the real revolutionaries. The Islamic Republic calls us anti-revolutionaries, is what I mean. And yeah, thank you so much for the super chat. Hope you liked the guest as well, by the way. Guys, let us know if you want to see more FDD analysts being brought on. We do have some options there as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the generous
by the
super
way,
chat. Yeah.
By the way, what is the score? Because I haven't even reached my goal yet. Today you
9. I'm at 9. I think you're at 15.
15.
Yeah, 15.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. You hit your goal like right at the beginning. I'm still at 6. I haven't even had 10 yet.
It's so weird how that happens. Like one day I'm in your position exactly. Like I'll still haven't hit my goal, but then it'll be reverse.
Yes, it's counter. You're the counter revolutionary. No, wait, I'm the counter. Wait, no, you're the revolutionary.
Wait, no, I'm the. And Between Capitals sent us our next super chat saying, "Thank you so much for coming on the show. Very informative, enlightening. my 2 cents as an American, having read Thomas Paine, is the Brits have no track record of respecting sovereignty of other countries. Ooh. I'm not sure how you would react to that. Yeah. Thank you, Elisa.
Wait, let me see. Let me read this again. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Very informative, enlightening. My 2 cents as an American, having read Thomas Paine, the Brits have no track record of respecting sovereignty of other countries. Okay, so it's not fair to generalize all the British people, especially because a lot of the ideas in the United States that is about sovereignty came from the UK, from British Enlightenment thinkers, right? So we shouldn't, just because of the British Empire was mistreating United States sovereignty, I don't think that we should generalize saying that about the Brits, okay? Because it was the great Enlightenment thinkers of, in the UK. Well, I mean, formerly like the British Empire. I mean, and also France and UK, the very two countries that right now the governments are anti-liberty, are the birthplace of the Enlightenment values that now the United States is founded upon. So we could appreciate that, And Thomas Paine got a lot of his ideas from Enlightenment thinkers coming from Western Europe, including France and Britain. Right. And by the way, your channel is now 122 subscribers. Crazy.
Dang.
The channel is growing fast. Dang. Again, guys, I'm going to put the link to her channel again in the chat. This is crazy how fast she's growing on her first day.
Congratulations.
Yes. Yes.
And thank you so much for the super chat.
Thank you.
Our next one, Effie, thank you so much for the jewels. Got the mystery gift for that. And
thank you, Effie.
Sam Bonanno, who says, as Goldie says, game of Durka. Yeah, I think that term's probably been around for a while. Wait, someone said something here. Okay.
Before you read the next one, but thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much for the super chat. And yes, Goldie does say that, and that's on point. Shauna is saying no British common law, no constitution. There you go.
Oh,
the U.S. Constitution. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that works for colonies there. Yeah. And thank you so much, Sam, for the super chat. I think they come to our group chat or a group discussion sometimes. And then I think you read that one, right? Or
as Goldie says, Game of Durka? Yeah, you read one? That. Oh, no, I didn't read this one. Ali was saying, Eshkin hamatun piruz و پاینده باشین. من عکس ندارم ولی احتمالاً نصب میکنم برای ایشون خیلی جالب. Oh, I don't know what ندارم. Man action. Okay, so just being grateful. Yes, being grateful. I don't know what that word is. I don't know what that word is, but thank you, Ali. Thank you for your support. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a mistype. But Ali, stay safe and thank you for your support from Iran.
Thank you so much. And there it is, Amir the Cricket with the 5 Liberty Politics memberships. Guys, if you got a membership, type something in the chat.
Amir.
Test it out.
Thank you, Amir. Thank you for always providing.
Thank you so much, Amir. Really kind of you. I think Amir did like today's show, so that's always a plus.
Did you? Yeah, Amir was enjoying a lot of his takes, so thank you. Yeah. I saw you, Amir. You enjoyed a lot of his takes, especially when he was supporting Israel.
Send a white heart.
Thank you for always.
And Veronica Redeemed, who says, "I'm excited to watch this when I'm done with work." Ooh. Hope you like it. Yeah, I think today was a good day.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Veronica. And then, 1 second, guys. Guys, I'm 150 subs away from 6,000. So if you aren't subbed to our channel, please consider subscribing. Be very much appreciated.
Put the link. Let me put the link. Hold on, I'll put the link. I got it. I got you, Ali. I got you. Guys, go subscribe to Ali's channel in my chat. He's only 150 subscribers away.
Yippee.
No, that's not. This is the. I got it. All right, putting it in the chat. Go subscribe to Ali, guys.
All right, there it is in the chat. And our next super chat is from Northwest Chickpea, who is Shauna, saying, "Sorry, Armin, we survived the new atheist movement where we watched atheists go full Rumpelstiltskin every time God was mentioned."
Yeah, I mean, I had some bad experience with Christians, so I'm not gonna hate on you because of some bad experience with Christians. There you go. But it's okay. Sean, I'll forgive you. I'll forgive you for generalizing. But it's yes. So, but jokes aside, it is ridiculous how sometimes some atheists are religious with their atheism, and they get offended when they hear anything religion related, and they treat any mention of God or prayer or as blasphemy, which is ironic because that's what they're supposed to be hating religious radicals for, but they're acting like religious radicals themselves, treating anything that is even remotely religious as something that they that is like blasphemy. Right? So I know the type of people you're talking about, but we're not all like that. So we might be like that about Islam, though. We might...
Okay, then we're good.
Yeah,
then we're good.
Yeah, so yeah, guilty as
on just that one aspect.
Yeah, especially this one, especially this guy.
Okay, I'll try to remember that point though, Shauna. Thank you.
Yes.
And Estaya was saying it was a good interview. I think it was. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
As well as Fun Sun saying Armin and Ali were fantastic hosts, great points and questions. Thank you, Fun Sun.
Thank you, Fun Sun. Fun Sun, thank you so much for being so supportive in the chat. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
you very much.
I really appreciate Fun Sun. She does a lot of work, honestly. Like she's so busy managing everything.
Guys, all of you in the chat who are saying, please be respectful, this and that, supporting the stream. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do that. It's really appreciated.
Yes.
And our next one is from Ariksan. Says, next time, please do alligrams with him present. Yeah, next time, now that we've gotten, some of the bigger questions out of the way, we've asked him and we're more familiar. I think next time he comes on, we could probably have a couple, maybe I'll show him one or two or something like that and see how much he resonates, because he was the ambassador to Yemen. Maybe he has some insight on people relations there as well. What do you think? I think you're a bit more resistant to that idea.
No, I think like when we have maybe I mean, if one or two would be good, but I just want to spend 90% of when we have a guest, because you guys see us all the time, right? And I don't want to give him information. I want to get information from him because he's such a wealth of knowledge, and I just want to make sure we take advantage of every second. But you're right, showing him something to then get his opinion on it. That makes a lot of sense for sure. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Arik-san. And Jagatai with the jewels. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jagatai. Auntie K.
Auntie K says, hello, fellas. Auntie K was a senior in high school when Iran fell. My family was devastated by what Carter did to the Shah in Israel. We are not monarchy shy. We have just heard for 47 years that the U.S. installed the mullahs. I mean,
Auntie K, you were on our side for all these years. So, because a lot of people have discovered our fight recently and are joined us, but you're telling me that you have been on our side and wanting the liberation of Iran and all of this and anti-mullah and this fight like for 47 years, you know what? I have so much respect for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate
That's a lonely position to have held.
Yes, for all that time.
Dang.
We really appreciate you, NTK. Thank you so much. Look, she's saying yes. Oh my God. That is a very Ali is so right. Ali is so right. That was not the popular position to have for all these years. So thank you.
And no one's gonna listen to you either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. She's saying yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Auntie K. Appreciate that super chat very much. And
Thank
our next
you.
one is from Dr. Cobra, who says, to Auntie K, not trying to be a jerk, just testing. Oh, okay, just testing,
Just
to
testing.
see a response.
The
Okay,
super chat.
gotcha. Thank you for the super
Thank
chat.
you.
Well, it worked. And next one is from News Bren, who says, the problem is that the IRGC are psychopathic terrorists. The people of Iran without guns, how will they make a coup? The regime doesn't care if millions die. Please tell me. I'm not sure I understand the question.
I mean, I
like,
kind of
how will
agree. We
they?
need to be
Oh,
armed.
a coup, like a COUP. Okay, without weapons.
I mean, if you're arguing that the Iranian people need to be armed, I agree. They need to get armed.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. The other way is how we've been weakening the IRGC monetarily. No money, no paying soldier. Soldier don't show up.
But I agree that that's not enough. I
Not
agree with Newsburn that that's not enough. Because even if they get very, very weak, at the end of the day, it only takes a few thousand people with machine guns on the other side. So we need to get armed.
Correct. Nothing on its own will be enough. Everything has to be together. Thank you for the super chat. And Shauna says, restorationists are restoring Iran. Ooh, are we restorationists? Not really. We're not really restoring it. We're actually advancing it, I would argue. We're only restoring some aspects.
We're restoring many aspects of it, and many other aspects of it are going to be just modern. Yeah. So this is actually a very good topic, Ali, because one thing I appreciate about the Iranian people is that they have a good balance of what they want from the past, but not everything from the past. Like they don't want to go back. They're like, these are the good things that we had that we want to go back to, but these are the things that we don't want to go back on because now there are better ways to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So they are restoring, but they're also progressing out of the things that they know that modern times require new solutions. So, for example, the Iranian people do not want to go to the model of Mohammad Reza Shah or Reza Shah, because their understanding is that what Mohammad Reza Shah was doing made sense for his time. They want to go with Reza Pahlavi, with the Crown Prince's model, which is different from his father and more fitting for our time, right? So they want to restore many things, which is true, Shana, but not all things, right?
True.
Yes. So, for example, they don't the level of openness of society. So, for example, we didn't have multiple parties during Mohammad Reza Shah time. We didn't have the level of freedoms that Mohammad Reza Shah was trying to get us to, right? So we don't want to go back to that level of freedom, and we don't want to have a Shah that has as much influence as Mohammad Reza Shah did. We want a a monarchy, but we want a more modern monarchy. So many things will be restored, and many things will be different. And I really admire the maturity of the Iranian people when I see how many of them have understood that balance. That they want to modernize. They don't just want to go back. They also want to modernize.
We have a chance here to create not only a modernly tailor-fitted system, but also something that will survive the upcoming age of AI as well. Thank you for the super chat, Shauna. And Black Cat says, Armin's army needs to retaliate. Does it?
Yes.
You guys are 6 points ahead. I don't know.
I do think that at some point you're going to reach us and we're going to pass us and we're never going to be able to. So I think it's coming. So guys, retaliate. Like next time maybe. No, okay, okay.
No, I'm the underdog here. I'll play that card until I'm not. Thank you, Black Cat and Nyla.
Shauna is quite. No, but Shauna was saying restoration doesn't mean without modernity. We will have to discuss what I mean later. Okay, okay.
Shauna knows, yeah. She knows what we're talking about.
Yes. Okay. Nyla.
And Nyla says, aw, hit some, miss some, lol. Oh, that's okay. Well, you I think Nyla did actually get the link to the interview from Amir in the chat. I saw that happen, so that's good.
I saw Nyla was here for a while. But thank you, Nyla.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nyla.
And
thank you for yes.
Thank you, Fizendresis, for the super sticker. I know you also like the show today as well. Appreciate that. And
thank you.
Auntie K says Armin needs 2 more.
I just wanted to appreciate Auntie K seeing that I didn't have. She was cheering like, guys, come on, Armin needs 2 more. Thank you, Auntie K. That's very sweet. Thank you, Auntie K.
Thank you very much.
Nyla saying yes, I did. Yes, I did. So yes, Nyla saying.
Nice,
right.
Sweet. And Sarah Ocean, who says, "quote unquote, be gone, woman. You say, pff, how rude. JK, love you."
Okay, I'll forgive you. I'll forgive you, Sarah. It's fine. See what? I forgave her.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Thank you, Sarah. And Between Capitals says, to be fair, I was speaking to the fact that Britain conquered 90% of world's countries. They're the most successful imperialist in history by far.
Yes, and the most benevolent. Anybody could challenge me on this. I know the British Empire did many things that were wrong, but they also did that. They were a net good. The British Empire was a net good, even with the examples of the things that they did wrong. And not only they were a net good, they were a net good by a huge margin. And no empire in history.
Not in
most
history.
Empires in
modern.
Yes, in modern history. No empire in modern history was as benevolent as the British Empire. I know Ali knows what went through my head.
The Achaemenid Empire, yeah.
Yes. See, Ali knows exactly. You know, when I was like, no empire in history, and I was like, And Ali read my mind. Ali knows exactly where my mind went. And then we adjusted it to modern history. Okay. No empire in modern history was as benevolent as the British Empire. So there you go. Wow.
And thank you, Between Capitals, for that super chat.
Yes, thank you.
No, we get your meaning now. Thank you. And Kevin Shaw with the confetti emoji. Looks like you hit it, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Amu Cappy.
Amu Cappy. Thank you for your service,
Amu
Cappy.
Kevin, can we call you Amu Cappy? Is that okay? I just
Uncle Cap.
Uncle Cappy, yes. Thank you for the super chat and getting me to confetti.
Thank you for the super chat. And Fun Son, thank you for the jewels as well. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Fun Son.
And
thank you, Fun Son.
Steve Dixon, thank you for the super chat, who says, I was 5 when the Shah got on the plane. January 16th on ABC News, the only time I saw my father cry. He said, that's it. Iran is finished.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was right.
That is so heartbreaking. That is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That is. Thank you for sharing that, Steve.
Yeah.
That is a sad but beautiful memory to share. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You know, I'm happy this is happening in my late 20s. Because if I was seeing the opposite right now, I don't know how I'd handle it. So I don't know how you guys handle it. I don't know. I don't know.
My hair is, I don't know, more. I don't know what it's called. When your hair, when you feel, I got the chills. Is that what you call? Yes. Hearing that.
Thank you for the super chat. And our next one is from Black Cat, who says, if Pahlavi doesn't want to be king, but a democratic monarchy is voted for, who would be the royal family? Well, the people would also vote. And yeah.
Nur Pahlavi.
Yeah, of course, it's always what the people would want. But I mean, being totally utilitarian, Nur Pahlavi would be the Shah. Prince Reza Pahlavi would be the prime minister. Let's keep in mind he's worked his entire life, and he's not low in age. With all this stress has been hitting him for the past year, and it's going to hit him for the next few years. He deserves some rest.
But here's the problem. Prince Reza Pahlavi is he's such a man of the people that he goes against his wishes. So if there's a huge demand by the Iranian people for him to be king, even if he doesn't want to be king, I feel like he's going to be king, even if he doesn't want to. If there is such a huge demand for it. But it is a possibility. I honestly wouldn't mind having Nur Pahlavi as our queen and having Prince Reza Pahlavi as our prime minister. But I know that's not I don't know how popular, I don't think that's a popular opinion. I think most people want Prince Reza Pahlavi to be.
Might not be, yeah. So yeah, we hope that, it would be Pahlavi. There is no other option.
Yeah. So one thing, Ali, here's an important point. Okay. And I think, guys, I'm going to tell you something for you to understand the Iranian people in a way that most people don't understand. And it's a very short sentence, and I want you to think about it. The Iranian people don't want Pahlavi because they want monarchy. The Iranian people want monarchy because they want Pahlavi. Listen to what I'm saying one more time, okay? The Iranian people don't want Pahlavi because they want monarchy. The Iranian people want monarchy because they want Pahlavi. They're more in love with Pahlavi than they're in love with monarchy. And monarchy is something associated with Pahlavi. But Pahlavi is the source of their love, not monarchy. Monarchy is just what comes with Pahlavi.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing for them.
Because the Iranian people would not want any other monarchy. Like if there's no Pahlavi, they don't want monarchy.
Yeah. All right. Oh, we got another one from Steve Dixon, who says, under the current imperial constitution, Patrick Pahlavi is next in line after Reza Pahlavi. That is the Pahlavi constitution as of February 11th, 1979.
I thought you were talking about something else.
I thought you were talking about Patrick David. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that's the first. But he's right. He's correct. I thought something. Okay. I thought you were referring to me and Ali misunderstood. Yes, that's correct. But that is the Pahlavi constitution. But that constitution, according to Prince Reza Pahlavi, is not relevant anymore. According to Prince Reza Pahlavi, right? So we're not going to go based on that constitution. We're going to go based on a new constitution that is written by the founding fathers and mothers of the new Iran, and those people are chosen by the Iranian people. So the new constitution of Iran will be chosen by the Iranian people indirectly, because we're going to be voting for the people who are going to be writing the constitution. Prince Reza Pahlavi has said himself that we're done with that constitution, with the old constitution.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
We have to make something new. that
We have
meets
to
our
make some
current
changes.
needs. Yeah.
Yes. He said that was a good constitution for his time. We need a new modern constitution. That constitution for Mohammad Reza Shah and Reza Shah does not serve us anymore. That's
Yeah.
what he said.
Thank you,
Let
Steve.
me know if that makes sense, Steve, in the chat. And also, here's the thing: that constitution, that old constitution, does not allow for a female monarch. And I'm pretty sure the most Iranian people want Nur Pahlavi to be in line, the next in line for our monarch after Reza Pahlavi. So that's another reason why we need a new constitution. Yeah. Okay. So Steve is saying, I get it. Yeah.
All right, guys. That is us for today. We went on for quite a bit. We hope you enjoyed the show. We will be here tomorrow with the regular program. And with that, please make sure you subscribe to both of our channels, Adi Samani and Liberty Politics, and Armin.
Guys, don't forget to like. Thank you so much for all the kind supports. You guys are amazing. We have the best community here. Seriously, guys. Like, I feel the love, the jokes, and everything. You guys are amazing. You give us so much energy. This is why we look forward to coming here and talking to you guys, because you're such an amazing group of people. So thank you for being here with us every time that we go live. And we'll see you guys same time again tomorrow. And until then, I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukrainian, Cuba Libre, Taiwan Jiayo, Long live America, Javid Shah, Ayande, Iran.
Iran.
See you guys.